Well, hey, it's time for Ask the Tech Guys. Leo Laporte on this side. Coming up in just a bit. What was that giant exploding object over Berlin yesterday? We've got film at noon.
And I'm Micah Sargent, and we also talked to Chris Marquardt. He gives us an answer to a strange puzzle of red turning green in photos.
And then one of us bought a Vision Pro on Friday. Can you guess which one? You'll find out next on Ask the Tech Guys. This show is brought to you by Cisco Meraki. Without a cloud-managed network, businesses inevitably fall behind. Experience the ease and efficiency of Meraki's single platform to elevate the place where your employees and customers come together. Cisco Meraki maximizes uptime and minimizes loss to digitally transform your organization. Meraki's intuitive interface, increased connectivity, and multi-site management keep your organization operating seamlessly and securely wherever your team is. Let Cisco Meraki's 24/7 available support help your organization's remote, on-site, and hybrid teams always do their best work. Visit meraki.cisco.com/twit.
Podcasts you love.
From people you trust.
This is TWiT.
This is Ask the Tech Guys with Micah Sargent and Leo Laporte. Episode 2008, recorded Sunday, January 21st, 2024. Tim Cook's Folly. Ask the Tech Guys is brought to you by Ecamm, the leading live streaming and video production studio built for Mac. We all use it here. In fact, Micah uses it for iOS today, along with Rosemary.
Week.
Whether you're a beginner or an expert, Ecamm, E-C-A-M-M, is here to elevate your video production from streaming and recording to podcasting and presenting. Ecamm Live is your all-in-one video tool, perfect for simplifying your workflow. Ecamm Live includes support for multiple cameras, screen sharing, plus the live camera switcher lets you direct your shows in real time. You've seen Micah do it when he says, let's look at the iPhone, or let's look at us, or let's moving around, let's look at my desk. Stand out from the crowd with high quality video. You can add logos, titles, lower thirds, and graphics. Really everything we do here with a big expensive setup, you could do very affordably with Ecamm. Drop in video clips, bring on interview guests, use a green screen, so much more. Join the thousands of worldwide entrepreneurs, marketing professionals, podcasters like us, educators, musicians, and other Mac users who rely on Ecamm Live daily. Get 1 month free when you subscribe to any of Ecamm's plans. Visit ecamm.com/twit. Use the promo code TWIT at checkout. ecamm.com/twit. Well, hey! It's time. Sorry, didn't mean to wake you. Time for Ask the Tech Guys. That there's Micah Sargent.
And that there is Leo Laporte.
Back from the Arctic blast that was New England. Holy cow.
Woof. Chilly.
It snowed. It got down to like, I think it was 11 degrees when I was flying away. Happily.
Just in time.
Just in time. Yeah, anyway, I have sympathy because most of our audience is in the Arctic chill right now, except for those of you in Australia, in which case it's sweltering hot. Anyway, I was visiting my mom, had a wonderful trip, but I'm back. While I was there, it's actually perfect timing because the Apple Vision Pro ordering was Friday morning.
Yes.
5 a.m. our time, California time, but 8 a.m. Rhode Island time. I got up. I went to the site. There was no delay, by the way. Site was working fine. They said, scan your face. I did that. Then they said, give us your prescription. I did that. Then they said, give us $3,500. And I said, whoa. By the way, the case for it is $200.
I am just so annoyed that the case is a separate purchase.
And it's plastic, and it's $200. I'm sure it's a very fine
I'm
case.
sure it's a great case. Beautifully designed.
I'm calling it from now on Cook's Folly. You ordered one, though.
Yes.
You got through the process?
Ordered one. Yeah, I went through the process.
Scanned your
easy,
face.
Easy peasy. The only thing that I was talking a little bit about it before the show. The only thing that was difficult was because I decided to document the process and was trying to kind of explain how things were working, I opted for pickup because I wanted to go through that process as well. And in doing so, I had the first option available, but by the time I hit next after kind of explaining where I was, that appointment was gone. So then I went back, the next appointment was gone. So I finally was able to get one for 11:30 a.m. Good thing is that's actually
on February 2nd.
On Friday, on that Friday.
Good.
So yeah,
So
it's still
you're good.
day one. That's okay. But it was just kind of scary there, seeing those appointments disappear.
You put up a video. Of
Yeah, we
you,
have a video out
doing this. Did you go back to bed?
I did go back to bed afterward. Yes, I had to crawl back into bed and try to fall asleep because it was very early. But yeah, the process was kind of what or was surprising that it was so easy, that the store opened quite quickly and the whole scan and everything worked just fine. If you had gone to the website and did the process, did the pre-order, what would happen is a little QR code would pop up and you had to scan that QR code on a device that had the ability, Face ID essentially, to do the proper measurements. And we all got different measurements based on our faces. It wasn't some sort of gimmicky thing.
It's just like the registering for Face ID where you turn your head and you go around like that and you do it twice. And they're not, I mean, honestly, it's not precisely measuring your head because they have a limited, they just, well, I think he's a large.
Exactly.
So it's kind of a little bit of
the light seal itself has several different numbers, 28 to like 39 or 40 or something. And I was a 35. But as far as the band goes.
Were you a 35 long?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
As far as the band goes, though, there are fewer options there. So I'm curious to see if when I go in person, they measure me again, and if they end up swapping out a light seal to see if one fits better.
Yeah, well, we'll find out a week from Friday.
Absolutely.
And then you're going to, I still stand by my initial reaction that this is Tim Cook's Folly and that it will be a flop out of the box. And I just couldn't, I thought, you're going to return it, I think. I think we decided that rather than pay all that money and keep it,
right,
you're going to have a month with, I think you get a month with it and you can return it 2 weeks maybe.
Yeah, we're going to, regardless of how long we have it, we will be doing as much as we possibly can. Yeah. To show you all what it does, how it works, what you can do with it, etc.
Well, first of all, there already are some little dissenters out there, namely Spotify, Netflix, and YouTube. Now, interestingly, Spotify and Netflix are two of the people who really resent Apple's 30% charge.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling this is the chickens coming home to roost, as my old grandpa would say. And maybe in your town, St. Joe, Missouri, they say that too. The chickens come home to roost because Apple has been kind of spitting on people. And now they get a chance to spit back. But honestly, I feel like this is an indicator of how much difficulty Apple's going to get pushing this through. They have not made a lot of friends with developers. They have not made a lot of friends with these big companies. And the big companies are saying, yeah, fine. Now Disney's doing it. There'll be Disney content.
Yes. Yeah, Disney, I mean, hey, if you've got someone on the board.
Yeah, I think it helps. Disney and Apple have a very tight relationship. And, of course, Steve Jobs was one of the biggest shareholders of Disney because they bought Pixar. So I have a feeling, well, we'll see. We'll watch. But you will see, of course, glowing reviews. We already have from select people who got to try it on last week and the week before. Notice, though, that Apple made them sit down. It's pretty clear that Apple sees this as something you sit down to
You're not
use,
standing and moving around.
which also bugs me. I feel like, and then everybody says, well, Leo, you've got to understand, this is the first iPhone. This is the precursor to what is to come. Fine. When that comes out, I'll buy it. But it's like, here, buy this car with square wheels. Now, eventually, we're going to have round wheels and you're going to love it. But in order to get there, you have to buy square wheels. So that's just me. And for those of you who bought it, and I have talked to a number of people who are very excited, Alex Lindsay, Jason Snell will buy one. You're going to buy one. I'm going to let you play with it. To me, I guess why I'm saying this is, for the vast majority of you who will never own this device, don't feel bad. You're going to see glowing, oh my God, the world has changed. It's the new era of spatial computing. It's not.
So to clarify, though, did you end up buying it?
No, of course not.
Okay, so you went through the process and then you stopped.
I got this close and I said, what am I doing?
Got it. That was not immediately clear to me. So that is interesting.
I stopped.
Got it.
I've been skeptical, as everybody knows. I'm probably the chief anti-Vision Pro guy. I've been skeptical all along. I don't think people want to put a computer on their face.
Yeah.
Either way, one of the things some of the people, including Marquez Brownlee, who got to sit on the couch try it, noted was it's pretty heavy.
Heavy.
This is without the battery pack in it.
Yeah.
You know, but they took the battery pack out, so it wouldn't be quite so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
But remember, you're going to be, and also unlike the Oculus, which is the same weight, by the way, but the weight is all in the computing thing, the front part, and it doesn't. The bands don't kind of take the weight off.
Yeah, Joanna Stern said that the band that goes across the top of the forehead helped, but still there was heaviness.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, we're just not there yet in terms of a device that doesn't feel like something you're strapping to your face, as you're pointing out, and so this is absolutely not a product for everybody. But I think, as far as, you know, this is the good thing, right? We have to have these conversations and we have to look at what's good about it, what's bad about it.
Yeah, and I encourage you to buy one. I think it's great that you bought one.
Well, and the fact that what we're doing is showing a completely new product category for this company. So we kind of needed to be able to cover it.
Look, I bought the first iPhone. I waited in line for hours to get it. I bought an Apple Watch immediately, even though it took a few generations before it was really great. This one, I just don't get it. I think, to me, it looks like Apple put so much money into it over so many years. I bet you there were people inside of Apple said, we can't release this. In fact, this is the rumor. And that Tim Cook said, no, we're gonna.
Yeah. Have you seen this budget?
We're gonna. And I think it's Tim Cook's folly. I really don't think this is a hit product. Now, Apple's had non-hit products before. Remember the iPod Hi-Fi? Steve Jobs said, I'm selling all my stereo equipment. It's so good that, so very important. Somebody, I think it was John Gruber, somebody said, Apple is a company. They're not your buddy.
Yeah.
They don't love you.
Brent Simmons.
Brent Simmons. They love your money. And they're a company. And they're going to do what they can to become as rich as possible. They've done very well so far. And I know there are quite a few Apple shareholders who are yelling at me right now saying, please don't, just shut up. Enough said. I just want, I don't want anybody to feel bad because they're not going to get to do it. I want you to kind of prepare yourself for the glowing reviews. But I also know, because of YouTube, there will be also people going, oh, this thing's awful. Wait for the YouTubes, you know, the Apple Vision Pro is the worst product in decades kind of things.
Look how easy it is to break.
Yeah, there you go. Somebody will put it in a blender.
Oh, my God.
Please don't put it in a blender. I commend Apple for putting the investment in, for really trying and putting together an amazing product. I mean, there's no doubt the technology is cool.
Yeah, the technology.
I'm not looking forward to seeing your scary eyes.
I know. So, actually, that's the only way I'm going to be doing shows while I have
From now on, he's going to have scary eyes.
Just blinking.
I'm very skeptical. I'm very skeptical. They are sold out, right? You can't get one.
No, yeah. Last I checked, you could still pre-order one. I don't know
when would you get it?
Yeah, that's the thing. I don't know how far out it is because, unfortunately, you have to go through the scanning process to see. Yeah,
that's no mistake.
But I know someone who waited until, was it later that same day or was it the day after?
Yeah,
later the same day, and the pre-order window had been, or the pickup window had been pushed by 2 days.
Okay,
so
I think if you go now, it will say not available.
That would be interesting.
Remember, they had, this is hard to make, and they had a limited number. We don't know how many. It was speculated that the first tranche would be about 100,000, and ultimately, over the year, they do 500,000, which is not very many. I mean, they sell something like 100 million iPhones a year. So we'll watch with interest. We'll watch with interest. Just prepare yourself. There'll be very positive reviews from probably people you trust. There'll be very negative reviews from YouTubers, neither of which are
dichotomy.
real.
People you trust and YouTubers.
Yeah. That's why you need us, right?
Yes.
Because Mike is going to do it.
I will give a level-headed, absolutely, take on this.
We're not link bait. We don't,
my job
that way.
is not, honestly, I feel it's not simply to talk about why you should buy this or why you should not buy this. It's to show you how to use it, how it's used, what it does. And that's, my primary goal.
Give you the information to decide for yourself whether you should buy it or not. You know whether you want it. I have a friend who's been working in virtual reality for 30 years. Gary, of course, immediately ran and bought it because he's a true believer. And he wants to, he's already working on an app for it. So
I didn't know Gary Oldman was into VR.
Gary Oldman loves this stuff. No, not that Gary. Watch with interest, but don't pay the interest, says Galia.
Oh, clever.
All right, what else happened while I was gone?
Oh, Lordy. Well, you were talking, well, I don't know. Do we want to talk more about Apple? I was just going to say
I got one. Microsoft got hacked again.
Oh, yes.
By the Russians, the Ruskies. The same ones who did the SolarWinds attack, Microsoft, in other words, a nation state, Russia, Microsoft announced that beginning in November of 2023, the threat actor, Russia, used a password spray attack to compromise a legacy non-production test tenant account. Okay, thank you. And gain a foothold, and then used the account's permissions to access a very small percentage of, wait for it, Microsoft corporate email accounts, in a very small percentage, including members of our senior leadership team and employees in our cybersecurity, legal, and other functions, and exfiltrated some emails and attached documents. But it was a very small percentage.
That is the case.
It was the right percentage.
Yeah, exactly. The leadership is a small percentage of the company.
Oh, my God. I almost don't know. First of all, I'm glad they revealed this. I think they legally have to. I'm not sure. But I'm glad they were upfront about it. But this does not speak well to the Microsoft ecosystem.
No.
The attack was not the result of a vulnerability in Microsoft's products or services. This is all from Microsoft, by the way. I'm reading from The Verge. This is Tom Warren, who's a great cover of Windows. Was not a result of vulnerability in Microsoft products or services. To date, there's no evidence, says Microsoft, that the threat actor had any access to customer environments, production systems, source code, or AI systems. Just to us. Just to Satya Nadella's email. That's all.
Yeah, and it was a password spray attack, which means you're putting in a bunch of usernames and passwords to try and find one that goes. That to me suggests that it's people who are not being mindful of their threat model, and that's not good.
It was a legacy non-production test tenant account. So there.
Yeah, so that's the place where we use monkey123 as our password, and it's fine.
They gained a foothold and then used the account's permissions. So the account, okay, you could say it was a legacy non-production test tenant account, but if it had permissions to access the entire email stack at corporate,
I don't care if it's a punch card computer. If it has the ability to gain access to modern systems, it's still a problem.
Wow. Okay, that's enough. We're an equal opportunity offender, and I just wanted to make sure you understand.
Who else do we complain about today?
Sports Illustrated. What a tragedy. You would think of all the magazines in the world that Sports Illustrated would have a future, right? Right.
I mean, sports, it's everywhere.
It's everywhere. The swimsuit issue. They got in a little bit of trouble. So it's a weird structure. The company that owns Sports Illustrated had a 10-year agreement. That's Authentic Brands Group. I don't know how they got it. It used to be Time Inc., but anyway, they got it somehow. And 10 years ago, let another company, originally known as the Maven, but now known as the Arena Group, to run it.
So one company owned it. But
one company owns it, but another company manages it.
Yeah, got it.
Like a property manager.
Weird.
They were operating and publishing it. They got in trouble. You may remember the CEO had to quit because they were using AI to generate some articles.
That's right.
The Arena folks paid $45 million for the right to do so. Authentic Brands Group retained commercial rights for things like a Sports Illustrated branded hotel in Michigan. Oh, yeah. Glad you kept the rights to that. Anyway, mass layoffs on Friday. Devastating. Some of the biggest names in sports writing are gone. I think and then, they had the grace to say to some of them, well, you're not fired, but you're probably going to have a job for 3 months.
Jeez Louise.
How graceful is that? They did this on a 10-minute Zoom call.
Of course.
7 minutes, sorry. We will continue to produce the Sports Illustrated, listen to this, brand and online content until the situation is fully resolved. In other words, one of the great magazines, another one, by the way, many, many have died. Another one is dying. It's sad. Used to be that if you were an athlete and you got on the cover of Sports Illustrated, it was simultaneously the biggest honor of your life and the biggest jinx of your life because so many athletes. But you know what? They say that about corporate headquarters too. When they build the fancy corporate headquarters, it's the beginning of the end. It's because you're at the peak. And when you're at the tippity top of the heap, there's only one way to go.
Yep.
Is down. So anyway, I'm sad about that. But what Mija and I mentioned this is really an ongoing bloodbath in media.
Media in general, yep.
And we've talked about this before. Podcasts you would think podcasts would be the next thing. Oh, no, we're the old thing too. And so what's happening is it's happening faster and faster. These cycles are going faster and faster. It's one of the reasons we have come to you again and again, and I want to come to you one more time and begged you please to join our club because the financing that comes from Club TWiT is keeping us afloat at this point. And it is a bleak year as we continue to look at the year. Ad sales are dwindling. Everybody's going to YouTube, frankly, and Google and Facebook where they know more about you, and Spotify.
And can I address something here?
Yeah.
I think it's really important. When you are joining Club TWiT, we talk about these great perks that you get. But one of the main things that happens when you join Club TWiT is that you are supporting TWiT in general, and you're making sure that we can keep doing what we do. And I want to make this very clear. When you join Club TWiT, you are helping me, you're helping John Ashley behind the TD desk over there, you're helping John Slanina, you're helping all of the folks who work here. I've seen some sentiment because Leo, you've mentioned a few times on different shows.
I have a new car.
You have a new car, and there's a misunderstanding.
To see my mom.
Right. And so I just want to make that clear that this is not lining Leo's pockets. Those are purchases he's made himself.
For much of last year, we didn't, at least I didn't get paid.
Right.
The way any business works when you're not you don't have investors is Lisa and I jointly own the company. And if there's any surplus, we get it. If there's no surplus, we get nothing, and we got nothing. I think I got paid a little bit this year so far, but we'll see. So mostly what I'm spending is my savings.
Exactly.
But what we don't, don't feel like you're subsidizing my lifestyle. You're not. You're subsidizing Micah's lifestyle. $7 a month. It's not much. What you're really doing though is you're keeping the content flowing, and we want to keep making content. But we if we lose money, we can't. So we had to lay off some of our most beloved employees. It broke my heart, still breaks my heart. We had to cancel shows. We don't want to do that anymore. $7 a month, twit.tv/Club TWiT. That's all.
That's all.
And I'd really love to get, right now we're about 11,000 members, which is less than 2% of our audience. We would love to get to 5% of our audience, because then we wouldn't have to worry. We could do everything we want. Anyway, thank you for saying that. I appreciate that. We want to keep Lily in the farmer's dog.
Yes.
Right? We want to make sure she doesn't have to eat that dry, compressed kibble. No dog should have to. All right. Genius adult producer.
Oh, you almost said it. I do want to note real quick that we also have on at noon today, Rod Pyle.
Rod Pyle, spaceman.
He actually wants to talk about a meteor that went over
our heads.
Yeah.
Just like that.
Just like that, yeah. No. There's a meteor that flew over Berlin just a few hours ago. He wants to talk about that.
Just a few hours ago.
Yeah.
Yikes.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
And then Chris Marquardt at 1.
Yay. Photo guy with his assignment review. Yeah, we got a big show. So why am I talking? I've been gassing and gassing. I apologize. Who should we talk to here?
I'm going to pick up, where is it? I can pull up the call list now. I see a Brian Morris that has their hand raised. So I'm going to pick up on you, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Come on down.
Come on down. Brian's been relaxing during the beginning of this show, I noticed. Very relaxed.
All right, Brian, you've been brought over to the Zoom, or invited to join the Zoom room. Once you get there, you'll
Okay, super. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, where are you calling from, Brian?
I'm calling from your former stomping ground on the very chilly Upper West Side of Manhattan.
Nice. First time it snowed in 2 years. How did you like it?
Well, the kids made me sort of run out and grab the sleds from storage.
Fun.
It's like a day-long affair just to dust those off. But they certainly enjoyed themselves.
Yeah, it's nice. And then it rained and it got icy and it's awful. But hey, that's life in the big city, as they say. Well, what can we do for you?
Yeah, I just had a question about a recent laptop purchase. My daughter, who's in middle school, she was very excited about getting her first computer.
Nice.
And she's very into the Apple ecosystem up here in Manhattan. So, you know, she got the phone, she got the watch, she got the pencil. She's pretty much fully. So, of course, it had to be a Mac. And wasn't so happy about that. If you've seen that, I think actually the Upper West Side Apple Store was the last store that Steve Jobs had designed. It's just sort of impeccably designed like all of their stores. So went over there and, you know, ultimately settled. You know, she does some photography, so she really wanted to get the SD card reader, so she didn't really want to get the MacBook Air. So we kind of moved to the Pro. And, you know, ultimately, so, you know, it's the cost.
Your daughter is no fool, let me tell you. Dad, I have to have an SD card.
Cool, yeah. And in fact, we got her SD card reader, and so and also she the speakers. She listened to the speakers, and she's like, the speakers are better.
They're really good in the Pro. They're much better. Yeah, she's right.
Yeah, really. So what we sort of ultimately settled on, you know, I was watching the pricing right before the holidays, and we were able to get, even though the M3 had just come out, we were able to get an M2 Pro chip.
Perfect.
You know, for a few $100s off.
Perfect.
You know, with a good amount of memory, 16 gigs, and that's way more performance than she would really need. And I think in some respects, she kind of told me the memory bandwidth on the M2 Pro chip is faster than on the...
Well, you got to give her credit for doing her research.
Yeah, my word.
Yeah, she really did. So here's where things get interesting. So she had it on her desk for just a couple of days.
Uh-oh.
And then she kind of opened up the lid.
Oh, no.
And lo and behold, nothing was on there. She promises, she swears that nothing ever happened. She just had it on her desk for just a few days. The screen started to blink out. And then a sort of magic sort of spider web crack started to appear within the panel of the very
That's a manufacturing defect. Apple should absolutely replace that.
And she was just sort of beside herself.
Oh, yeah.
Really.
Yeah.
There's a lot of latency.
So we brought it back over, Leo. I'm sorry. So can you hear me okay? So we brought it back over to, you know, where we had purchased it, the retailer here that everyone tends to go to, B&H Photo. Which we usually go to.
Oh, you didn't get it from Apple. You got it from B&H.
Yeah, because B&H actually had it on sale. You know what I mean? They had a deal. So we brought it back within a week to B&H. B&H inspected it and said, "Hey guys, you know, this was a physical impact, and so you own this." And I had another friend of mine who, you know, was in the tech industry, and he said, "I think you just bought yourself a very expensive Mac Mini," is what he kind of told me. So anyway, so she was sort of upset about it, but the story gets sort of better. So luckily we had bought Apple Care.
Okay.
Okay. So instead of, you know, watching $1,500+ go down the tubes, we brought it into the Apple Store on the Upper West Side and said, no problem, we'll put it through. They sent it out on Monday. We had it back on Thursday or Friday, changed the panel, and we're sort of back in business. So anyway, I guess there's 2 points. One is, I think no one would ever think that you really should buy Apple Care at the point of sale, you know, even when you're within the return period, because sometimes, you know, I don't know where, you know, the vendors that are making these things for Apple, Foxconn, deep into China somewhere, every once in a while, they're pumping these things out.
Sure.
Things like this apparently can happen. So I guess the question is, now that it's been sort of repaired, is there anything that we sort of need to be concerned about going forward Is it pretty much as good as new?
Yeah.
You know, once they've kind of
one of the things Apple does when they replace and fix is they replace. I mean, they don't take a soldering iron and get in there and fix it. They just take the whole unit out and they replace it. You may even have a brand new laptop. Who knows? Depending on how it worked out. That's why you buy AppleCare. And by the way, Apple could do the same thing. You know, if you get AppleCare Plus, they have a repair policy even for accidental damage like that.
Yes, they do.
But I really think you were right on. That's a manufacturing
that it happened that quickly, and that swears up and down that nothing happened. I would also just recommend, so the sort of the amount of space between the keyboard and the kind of rest of the chassis and the display when it's closed is very, very, very small. And so there were some folks who, for some reason, installed on their Macs screen protectors. This tended to be people who wanted those kind of privacy screen protectors where if you view at it from an angle, you can't see what's on the screen. So totally understandable, doctors' offices, things like that. But those were actually causing cracks in the screen in some cases because of the small amount of space.
So when you close it, even a millimeter more thickness in the screen when you close it,
and then if you have pressure in one place,
hit the keys.
Yeah, exactly. So what I would recommend is just going forward, something that I always do is again, this was probably a manufacturing error, but in terms of just making sure that display is safe going forward, I always look to see if there are any crumbs or anything on the chassis before I close it. And if there are, then I just brush it off. And that just helps me make sure that that's little bit of area between.
Because there almost always are, because I eat my breakfast.
Near it, right?
right in front of it. In fact, the last one I ruined by hitting a cup of coffee and spilling it right into the thing. And I did not have AppleCare.
Ooh.
And it needed a motherboard replacement. Without AppleCare, the guy said, there's not a chance in hell. It will cost you more to fix this. So I do now buy AppleCare. I resent it. As always, you know, these extended warranties I resent because I know it's a big profit center. But Apple's unique in the fact that they really do kind of replace stuff that they don't even probably have to. B&H is I buy stuff. I buy most of my camera gear from B&H. They're fine, but they're a normal retailer. And so they're going to do what a normal retailer does, which is say, oh, you dropped
nickel and dime, essentially. Yeah.
And that's how they can have $300 less on the laptop because, you know, they're basically not taking as much profit. I don't think that means you should only buy from Apple.
Right.
I mean, if it's convenient, I would. But it does mean you should always get AppleCare Plus, right? Do you get AppleCare Plus on everything?
Yep.
Did you get it on the Vision Pro?
Yes, because this is why.
$500.
No, I didn't get that one. I got the per month because if it's going to be going back, I don't want to have it drop and break and then we're out that amount of money.
Oh, good. So see, this man he's a good man. Well, you're a good dad, and I think that's a great laptop that could well last her through high school. So that's the good news.
Yeah,
that's what we're hoping for. But I think the message is, you know, sometimes in life you kind of get what you pay for. But I think when it comes to sort of high-end Apple gear, you know, unless you're willing to take a risk of, you know, sort of catastrophes, and they can kind of happen within days or hours after unboxing these things, it's best to just sort of pay the extra couple $100 for the warranty and then just kind of sleep well at night knowing that even if something does happen like that, let them change. Because, you know, I did see the repair bill on that, and I think a new screen, if I didn't have the AppleCare, was going to be like $900.
Yeah.
For a new display. So it's just sort of you know, the notion of walking around with something like that's you know, is going to incur that level of cost is and
you're right. If you're buying a laptop for a teenager, you better get
invest in your investment.
But I don't blame her. I think that sounds exactly like a manufacturing defect, not something she did.
I agree.
And the problem is B&H is never going to say that. B&H is always going to say,
this is something
you bought it. You buy it. You know, you broke it somehow. What did you do? But Apple, because Apple cares about their reputation so much, they tend to be pretty good, even if you don't have AppleCare. But you really do want to get AppleCare because then they treat you like
it's a whole different experience. Yeah. I remember going into a store at one point and I was having trouble with my device, and I sat there and I was explaining everything to the person, and then the person looked on my account and said, "Oh, you've got AppleCare Plus. We'll take it. Here's a new one."
They immediately.
They didn't really need.
They make so much money, in my opinion, on AppleCare Plus that they don't hesitate to continue your customership.
Exactly.
They want your business, and they want you to buy Apple Care Plus. So you just did a nice ad for Apple Care Plus. Hey, you're a good dad, though.
Yeah,
I think you got your daughter a very nice machine. You were smart to get the M2, not the M3. The M2 Pro is going to go for a long time with that great fast memory bandwidth. She is a Sharpie.
I just have
You're
to say
in deep
too,
trouble, Dad. I got to tell you.
Your daughter sounds awesome. Clearly
Dad,
knows her stuff.
It's DDR5.
Yeah.
I need to have.
Yeah. I mean, even in the Apple store, she kind of knew where within the store there was a secret drawer where all the watches come out from.
Oh my gosh!
One of the salespeople said, "Oh, I'm going to go over to that table," and she said, "Oh, you mean the one with the secret hidden drawer
Oh my
with all
goodness.
the watch bands?" And he kind of looked at her like, "How old are you?"
You got a smart one. That's fantastic.
That's incredible. Wow!
Congratulations. Job well done, Dad. And are you a PC guy? Is that why you didn't want to buy a Mac?
Well, I think that I guess at the end of the day, look, we've had kind of some of both for various different applications and reasons, and I guess the idea was, for just a general purpose machine, you're going to have to pay a premium for that Apple experience. So the idea was I could probably have gotten her a reasonable laptop, probably for under $1,000, a really nice machine in a PC world, but then once you move into the sort of high-end Apple, and in terms of sort of build quality, build quality is nothing but some of these defects, like you can see, it can really happen in any product, and regardless of the sort of label on there. So that was really the gut instinct, was to try to steer her towards the PC, but with all the integration and her phone.
Oh, don't get a PC.
Up,
yeah, don't get a PC.
It wasn't going to really
PC is a good choice for the office. It's a good choice for somewhere where you have an IT guy. It's not a great choice for a 11-year-old. I know it's more expensive, but this will last longer. It's a quality device. You're getting her a good. You're not getting her a Fisher Price computer. You're getting her a real computer.
And I can continue to be reminded to pay that Apple Care of $99 a month, $99 a year in perpetuity. Yeah. So
I always just buy it outright. I shouldn't. You're right. You did the right thing by doing the month to month, but I just don't like another monthly bill.
Yeah, no, that's fair.
It ends up being the same cost. Hey, nice to talk to you. Nice.
Okay, thanks so much, guys. Really appreciate your thoughts on that, and now we can sleep well at night.
It's good feedback.
Everything's going to be copacetic.
Yeah, it's good
really
feedback.
Appreciate it.
Hey, we got a few minutes before the spaceman joins us.
Spaceman touches down.
I want to hear about this meteor that just flew over Berlin. Talk about breaking news. Yeah. This just in. But why don't we do a quick email before then? What?
It exploded over Berlin.
It did?
That's...
Holy cow, we got video of it. Oh, my God. This just in. Film at noon. Steven, who's at hotmail.com, in fact.
What?
And still has as his signature, he hasn't changed it yet, get Outlook for Android.
Oh.
So.
Steven, let's move you off of Hotmail, please.
Yeah, I mean, the free Outlook is pretty good, but do change the signature to your name. I'm trying to keep my Google storage limit below 15 gigs because I'm cheap, and I wanted to remove most of my photos to an external hard drive. Oh, Lord. After reading about Takeout, it says it separates the metadata to a JSON file, and it becomes difficult to match up the date and time the photo was taken. Is that true? That is true.
Why does it do that?
So, on the one hand, I commend Google for not being Hotel California, not being a roach motel that you can check in, but you just can't get out. That was the idea of Google Takeout back in the day when it was created by, I think it was Brian Fitzpatrick. He said, you got to have a way to get out of this. And Google back in the day was not so evil. And so they said, yeah, that's good thinking. So we're going to create Takeout. Takeout, in theory, lets you get all of your Google data out of your Google account, including your Google Photos. Having done this, I know what a pain it is. I actually used a variety of tools like EXIF tool and a variety of things to get the dates back, because you can't get the dates back, to get that information back. But it's a lot of work. I had to handwrite some scripts and stuff. So I'm going to recommend a former sponsor of ours called Mylio, M-Y-L-I-O. It's free on one computer. So put it on one desktop. You do want a desktop for this. And then do the Google Takeout. The other thing Google does with Google Takeout is they don't let you have the whole thing. You have to do little gigabyte files. Because I have so many photos, I think I had 11 2 gigabyte files process. Mylio, though, and this is worth it, even if you had to pay for it, but this is for free, imports it and then puts it in the Mylio Photos database. From there, you can export it. You can put it in Apple Photos or whatever you want. But it will do the right thing. It will take it in. It takes a little while. It has to process it. It might even take a day or two. Just, let it run because it's then going to reassign the names. It also dedupes if you have duplicates, which is a very handy thing. I really like this program. They were a sponsor. I think they're coming back. They're just taking a little break. So I should mention that. But if you can, that's probably the easiest way to do it, is use Mylio. It imports from a variety of places, including your Google Takeout. Actually, they'll walk you through the Takeout, the whole process, and import it. And as I remember, they get the dates right. No, that's not it. That's something else.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, it doesn't even really use Takeout. It just goes directly to the Google Photos.
No, it uses Takeout.
Oh, it does?
Yeah.
Then it must be the other Photos library that it does that with.
Yeah, well, this is the problem, is getting it out of Takeout, but it will import Takeout. The other way to do it, and I have somewhere I have a whole thing on how I got this stuff out of Google Takeout. I have a script and stuff. It was complicated. I had to do a lot of trial and error. Have you ever done this?
Yeah, using Takeout, but not resyncing my metadata afterward. No.
Okay.
Yeah, too complicated.
Take a screenshot of this. So this literally, that's a shell script for file in star. Unzip the file into a temp folder. Okay, so you do that. And then you go to the temp. Then I remove the JSON files. You fix up the creation date to match the EXIF. So this is critical. The JSON file is not necessary if you used a camera that stores the creation date in the EXIF. If you didn't, then you really want to use Mylio. But what I did is I used a program called JHEAD, J-H-E-A-D. Now, this is on a Mac. I think some of this is also available on Windows and DOS. And JHEAD moved it into folders based on, so this is somebody's crazy script. EXIF JPEG manipulation tool. You'll get an idea of how geeky this is from the website.
Yeah, look at it. It's plain text.
It's a text thing. So this is the first thing, is JHEAD. And oh, look, it has a Windows, Linux, and OS X. So that's good news.
Not on Homebrew?
No. Well, it might be, but it's open source, so it's very easy. It doesn't look like it's on Homebrew, but maybe it is. So JHEAD. And then I use this EXIF tool, an equally geeky, ridiculous program by Phil Harvey. Also open source, also free. Look at this. Just as bad as the JHEAD, right? This is also cross-platform. So this is hysterical. I'm sorry if I'm going to hammer your site, Phil. He says, if exiftool.org goes down, it's because of the crappy DreamHost web hosting, which disables unlimited traffic website if a single bot hammers the site with a moderate load. Here's an alternate page on SourceForge. Let's hope we don't kill this page. But you can download this. I use JHEAD and exiftool to kind of get all the metadata right and all of this stuff. Both of them are kind of this supports every file type. You probably could do everything you want in exiftool, or get Mylio, which would make it a lot easier. JHEAD is in Homebrew. Thank you. That's nice. I don't think you have to use both. JHEAD is for JPEGs, and by the way, your Google Photos are all JPEGs. So this is JPEGs to get the EXIF data, and you can create folders with it and move them into the folders. You can apply the EXIF data to the photo, I believe. And by the way, it's important that it's not the modification date; it's the creation date, because because the creation date once you get in Takeout is now Google's date, whatever date you did this. So you're going to then go to the EXIF, which is that metadata that's stored into a photo by your camera, and it'll say the creation date. You take that creation date and you make it the creation date of the file. JHEAD will do that. exiftool would do that. exiftool is a Perl library. Give you some idea what we're talking. Very geeky. But yeah, you can do it. Now, I want to go to space, but first I have to get the Pyle. This is the Pyle of Rod Pyle's
But
books.
also, we need to take a quick Pyle break.
Before we do this, we want to take a look at your inner space. So everybody, together with me, before we go to outer space. All right, you feel better? Are you centered?
I feel better. I'm centered.
Okay.
It's the second move in Tai Chi.
You know, I'm a little stalled because I went back east, so I missed move 3 and 4.
I figured.
So I got to get caught up in my Tai Chi. I only know one move.
It's a great move.
Rod Pyle, the author of Amazing Stories, the author of Interplanetary Robots, the true stories of space exploration. Actually, I'm going to ask him a question about that. Look at this. Blueprint for a battle star. You know which one we're talking about, but we, out of respect for George Lucas.
Look at the Vision Pro on that guy.
Hey, that's pretty good. You know what cracks me up is Apple's Vision Pro ads, which have a bunch of people putting on helmets, like Obi-Wan Kenobi and Data, and they should get this guy, Rod Pyle, to do it too.
Rod Pyle.
Editor-in-chief of Ad Astra magazine. Hello, Rod.
I'm wearing my anti-bolide glasses today.
What's a bolide?
Bolide's an exploding meteorite. Okay, let's take these off so I can see you guys.
It works a little too well.
Yeah.
Rod is the host of This Week in Space on the TWiT podcast network, along with Tarek Malik from space.com. We are well. How are you?
Good. We got a lot of stuff today, so whatever you got time for.
Well, first thing I want to ask you, I think, and we should really pour one out, I guess. For what in Battlestar Galactica? What was the thing that they said in Battlestar Galactica? Remember that?
I can't remember.
But anyway, for the Ingenuity helicopter, which was sent to Mars to explore Mars, it's a drone, and it was sent, and they thought, well, maybe we'll get 4 or 5 flights out of it. I can't remember what they thought. Just a handful of flights out of it.
Right, 5. Yeah,
5 flights, literally a handful. How many did they get?
Well, they just finished 72. And that 72nd flight was a pop-up because they had had some communications issues in prior flights. And they said, okay, let's just do a quick jump to make sure we can still talk to it. And there's a couple of different accounts rattling around, but it looks like it landed out of line of sight. But prior to setting down, they had lost communications again, but managed to reacquire them by telling the rover, okay, just sit and listen. Don't do anything else. Just sit and listen. Don't interfere with yourself. And it regained contact, and this is after 72 flights. And let's not forget, the Perseverance rover is running on 2 radiation-hardened PowerPC 750s processors, which were baselined in 1997. So talk about compact code in Unix, right?
So is Ingenuity back then? I thought we would lost contact.
No, it's back. They're still troubleshooting. But so far it's flown 128 minutes total of all the flights.
Amazing. And
over 11 miles. And I think the reason it goes out of line of sight, of course, is because it's scouting ahead of the rover.
Right.
But they do try to keep comms continuous.
But I mean, pour one out. I thought we were pouring one out for good, but pour one out just to the success of Ingenuity, and so say we all.
So say we all.
Well, and we're seeing, with this recent launch of the United Launch Alliance Vulcan rocket and the Peregrine lunar lander, which was a private company funded by NASA called Astrobotic, and it didn't make it, right? It malfunctioned on the way to the moon. So we're kind of seeing, the kind of malfunctions we had in the early 1960s in the private sector and other countries. Not many people have managed to land on the moon, but it just reminds us how hard this is. And for this little machine to run this long, and admittedly, they had $80 million to spend on it, but it's just astonishing.
But that's just a tiny amount. That's how much they spent on the overpass down the road here. I mean,
that's like NASA's coffee creamer budget.
Yeah. I mean, just wonderful, wonderful. All right. So I just wanted to mention that. I thought that we'd lost it for good. They can't believe they got it back. That's incredible. What a story. Yeah. We did lose Voyager, though, right? Voyager 1, I think we lost.
It had a problem. They're still talking to it, so it's not completely gone. But let's bear in mind, this thing does data recording when we uplink commands to it on reel-to-reel tape that's been running for over
this thing is ancient
years.
Yeah, and it is the most distant man-made object from our Earth. at this point. Many
I think so. Yeah,
light years away. So wow,
getting out into interstellar space. So it's an
story.
amazing and still has maneuvering fuel after all these years and thrusters that work.
So there's two of them. Though. There's Voyager 1
I
and
wish my
Voyager
Jaguar
2.
was this reliable. Yeah, there's two
your
of them.
Jaguar wasn't this reliable when it came from the factory, my friend.
Well, yes.
So what else besides obsolete space gear that's still running?
Okay.
Yes.
So let's talk about this this meteorite over Germany. So nice
We
to
have
something
video.
dropped on Berlin that isn't from a B-17. Yeah.
It is a meteorite because it fell to Earth.
Right. So the question, it's about 3 feet across. And what's interesting about this one is it was actually spotted by somebody over at SETI, presumably with a radio dish, just
Look
before
at
it
that.
came in.
Oh, that's so
out.
cool. But
And
that's a
usually when you
shooting
see those-
star. It's just a shooting star, Rod. Let's not
It's
get
a
excited.
big shooting star.
It's a
you got
big-
a rock 3 feet across. You probably
Is that how
wanna
big it was? Wow.
Step aside. Yeah, roughly. And as I said, it was unusual that it was found just minutes before it came in because that usually doesn't happen. So the question now is, did it impact? So when you see those flashes, that means things are coming apart. So
Right.
sometimes they explode completely, which is bolide. Sometimes they, somebody wrote in Discord, a shooting star? You mean Alex Baldwin? Oh, that's harsh.
Oh, too soon, my friend. Oh,
that was Dr. Mom.
Dr. Mom.
Dr. Mom.
Finger shake at Dr. Mom.
Well, no, that was a good joke.
So,
Okay.
there's
That's
if there's a
okay.
gas bubble in there or a loose piece on it or something, you'll see it start to fragment. But they
I had
think
a
it may
gas
have
bubble the other night. That was
Stop.
No, that's a different story.
Yeah,
not
but
a
you didn't
bow
Different
fragment.
kind. I didn't break up.
Although you
over
may have
Berlin.
flamed, we don't know. But the question is, did it come in? And I guess there's snow there now, so they're going to have to wait till it melts away to go look for it. But hopefully we'll find some pieces of it, which
That's
would be very
really cool.
When you said this doesn't happen too often, you mean that usually it is spotted long before the 4 minutes?
No, usually it's
It's just
not spotted at all.
Got it.
So if you go out, there are probably 6 major meteor showers per year, 2 of them prominent. This wasn't part of one of them as far as I know. And that's because these are trails of asteroids and comets that have long passed, mostly comets, that have long gone past Earth's orbit, and they leave this kind of bank of gravel and junk behind them. So every time the Earth goes through that in predictable times of the year, you'll get meteor showers. So if you go out to a very dark place, you can see maybe one every minute or two. They're not like this for the most part, but every now and then you see a big one like this, and it's pretty exciting. And they come in different colors. Sometimes there's green if there's a certain kind of metal in it. There'll be other colors. So that's something fun to do.
We actually are in the Gamma Ursae Minorids right now, and we'll be in the Alpha Centaurids in a week or so.
Those are little ones.
Those are little ones. It's what is it? The Perseids
Those
is
Alpha
the one.
Centaurids, they're so small.
They're little.
Perseids and the Geminids. So
Perseids are in
Perseids
August.
Summer.
Yeah, summer.
Geminids are in December, which is
Yeah.
a lousy time to go outside.
Yeah.
And I may have said this before on the show, but in 1966, when I was about a young Yelper, I saw the Leonid shower, which was in 33-year
Named
cycles.
after me. Yeah.
It'll come in. Yeah, it'll come in like barnstorms.
That's Temple Tuttle. Yeah.
Right. And there was thousands of them that came in that night in this
Wow.
one big burst. And I ran inside to wake up my parents, and they said, "That's nice, honey," and went back to sleep. But I thought it was exciting.
Oh,
I was very lucky to
Those
see that.
Philistines. Oh, my
But other
goodness.
news.
Yes.
Last week, we finally got the news of Artemis delays. So they had a press conference. They announced it quietly the Friday before, as they will often do. And they had Bill Nelson, NASA administrator, and other front rankers from NASA, and a rep from SpaceX and a couple of others on their press conference. And they said, well, okay, so we're finally going to admit it. The Artemis 2 lunar flyby will be delayed, not in 2024, but at least till December 25. And Artemis 3, the landing at least till 2026, no month given. And as we've discussed before, there's a few problems with that. We don't have a lunar EVA capable suit. We haven't built one since the 1970s, so we're working on that with Axiom Space Company. And critically, we don't yet have a lunar lander this ready because Elon's got to fly those starships, because the Starship is what's supposed to get us down the lunar surface, and we've only flown 2 of them, and they both exploded. So working on that. And nobody I know in the community believed these dates. And originally it was supposed to be out around 2028. But the Trump administration said, no, we want it in 24 because we'll still be in office. Not quite. So it's official now, and they've got a little more time. And Leo, you remember this from the Apollo years. If you were paying attention then, we had a lot of delays then too.
Well,
we were spending about
we did say
3 times as much money.
Well, I didn't say it, but JFK did say before this decade is out, and he did it. 1969.
And they made it.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did it
delays
instead,
or not. And I remember sitting watching Uncle Walter fill 3 hours during a hold on Gemini. But several year delays, maybe a little order of magnitude, a little different. Don't you think?
Yeah, but we're spending a lot less dough.
Oh, okay.
So it's still expensive. And
you get what you pay for. Is that what you're saying? They went to B&H Photos to get their rocket instead of getting it from the Apple store, huh?
No Apple Care on these guys. Yeah.
No.
Well, and SLS is a big part of that expense. There's other hot centers of where the costs are, and there's a lot of criticism. The
but
Office
we
of
did.
Inspector General has. Yeah.
We did do this 50 years ago, right?
Yes, but we did it. Yeah, and it was a mad dash and entirely.
But I'm just saying that
hardware.
50 years ago,
we were able to do it then.
we were able to do this. More than 50 now.
But like you pointed out, many of the people who designed the suit are now dead. And so they don't have all of the knowledge even that we had for how to build a spacesuit and also bring it up to code of the modern day, right? I remember us talking about that a little bit.
Yeah, to some extent.
Now, you
can always go into a museum and reverse engineer one. There's plenty of them around. But you're right. I mean, there's a big loss of brain trust over the years, not just for spacesuits, but for everything from throttleable rocket engines to, well, not navigation.
Do you feel it's a shame that we didn't, when we knew it and had the ability to do it, pursue this and actually make a moon base and all that? Or...
Yeah, I mean, I would have liked to have seen something along the lines of the Apple show for all mankind, except without the Russians getting there first.
Could we have though? I mean, I also remember that this was spam in a can. I mean, the computers were primitive, everything was very primitive, and I think we don't really understand how, like by a thread this whole thing hung, and it's kind of a miracle that
it's a really good point. And the further we get from it, the more amazed I am that it all worked, given the little technology then. Because transistors were about, 7-8 years old when the first lunar missions were heading out.
Right.
But we could have, they had a lot of, so NASA had a lot of plans that don't get a lot of coverage. I cover them some in some of my books, but for lunar lander cargo versions, for lunar lander semi-permanent base versions.
We just lost the will to do it.
Well, yeah, politically, I think. This was a geopolitical struggle.
Do you think somebody in the chat room, Newman, is saying that we're doing it safer this time? Is that the case, that we're more cautious?
Well, we hope so. Yeah, I think they're doing more testing, although there was plenty of testing back at Apollo, but we're doing more testing. There's more work being put up front because we don't want to hurt anybody. And NASA's more risk adverse than they used to be. Now, what'll be interesting is, of course, the Chinese have said very publicly, hey, we're going to the moon too. First with robots and with people. They've already succeeded with robots. It'll be interesting to see what level of risk they're willing to take.
Well, and let's not forget that the reason NASA had unlimited funding for JFK was we were in a race with Russia. So in some ways, competition isn't necessarily a bad thing. Right? I mean,
and we were almost on a war footing with Apollo,
Yeah.
But it was very... originally that program was meant to be sustainable. As it turned out, because they got in a hurry, it was really not. So while we could have done a lot more with the Saturn V, lunar module, command module, all that, it wasn't designed for long-term use. So we built a bunch of them. We used most of them. A few are still sitting in museums because those flights got canceled because Nixon got bored with space, I guess, and the geopolitical mandate kind of went away. So you're right. I mean, it's really a matter of willpower and just wanting to do it and put the money at it. And we're spending a lot less this time.
You started to say something about China in the 60s?
No, I was just saying Russia in the 60s, we don't know, they had a lunar effort. They denied it for a long time because it didn't work. But what would have been interesting to see had they tried to send cosmonauts to the moon is how much risk they would have taken.
Got it.
Because we were more risk adverse than them back in the time, in some people's opinion. some researchers. Certainly what we saw is their stuff was a little more primitive and kind of rough and ready than ours. But we were taking a lot of risks. I mean, there were a couple of flights, Apollo 8 notably, where had one rocket engine failed, which is one on the back of the service module, part of that command module spacecraft cluster. Had that thing not worked, Apollo 8 would not have come home. So there were some single points of failure that were pretty scary. Trying to avoid that this time. We're going to have multiple spacecraft out there. In a few years, we'll have the Lunar Gateway orbiting the moon. So there'll be a space station there you can go to if you have an emergency and you're in the right orbit. But it's a lot to do. And, you know, you hear something, you know, you see a clickbait article like NASA can't figure out how to build a spacesuit. Well, they got lots of spacesuits. What they don't have is suits that can walk around the lunar surface. And let's remember, those Apollo suits were designed to be used once for a couple of days on the moon, and that's it. Moon dust is nasty. There's no weather there because there's no atmosphere, so that grit's really sharp. So you get a little bit too much grit in your glove seal or your helmet seal. So they're trying to design these things to last a long time because they want to go there and stick around this time.
That makes sense. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
By the way, Micah,
yes.
that earlier shot of you in the sailor's cap,
What? I missed that.
you guys put it up. He had a knit cap on. It was a picture. I think it was a picture of
when
him
I was
getting
waking up in the morning.
Oh yeah, that was when
That's
you were
my-
When I
wearing
grow
your
up
Vision Pro.
and start to Benjamin Button, I want to look like you. I finally arrived.
You want to
'Cause
reverse.
I decided
into-
aging is not for me.
No,
You know?
believe me. But it does, as my wife will say again and again, repeat the alternative. Right?
Well, we're seasoned, right?
yeah.
That's what they say about guys our
we're
age.
seasoned.
The alternative of aging is dying. Is that the implication there?
Yeah,
That's the point. Yes.
it's a lousy choice. You know,
It
unless
is
they're going to shoot me up in a rocket to re-enter gloriously, I don't want to.
Oh, there's another story. I feel so bad for Gene Roddenberry and Isaac. Was it Isaac Asimov?
Majel Barrett. There's some other Star Trek people. I don't know.
Their
Arthur C.
ashes-
Clarke was on there.
Arthur C. Clarke. That's who I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Their ashes were, and this was a little bit of a strange thing. In fact, there's quite a few complaints about it. A private business was launching them to the moon to leave their ashes there. And some Native American tribes were objecting because this is the moon was a holy place for them. You don't just throw people's ashes on the moon. In any event, it's a moot point because the rocket has now it had a propellant leak. It couldn't get out of orbit, and it is now deorbited in the most spectacular way. And
Well, yeah, it went out in this big loop and then came back.
you know
and
what?
Re-entered over.
If you wanted to
South
do that with
Pacific.
my ashes,
That's cool.
scatter them over the entire face of the earth.
And you know, lots of sympathy to the indigenous tribes because they've had, you know, we haven't had the best history of
We have
compliance
not
with
asked
their
them
desires
in the past. Yes.
But in this case, NASA's response was, look, this is a private company. We're just funding the rocket. We don't have any control over them. You could, if you needed to, somebody could intervene. But let's not forget that there's 6 Apollo lunar module landing
I
stages
was
sitting
thinking
around the
of that
moon.
too.
Before those astronauts left, they tossed out cameras. They tossed out bits of clothing.
We've already desecrated
Waste.
the moon in many ways.
Tossed out little bags of poop. So
Yeah.
there's stuff already on the moon that you would consider to be desecration. I think this was just a matter. What they didn't say in the complaint was just don't commercialize it.
Right.
There was also some of those remains were also put up, I believe, in the rocket fairing. So some of them did successfully go out into deep space and will continue going on.
nice.
But the ones, you're right, the ones on the lander came back to Earth. But, you know, they still went to space and they came back and burned up in a spectacular fashion. So I guess that's something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have more ashes to try again. By the way, it was just a small number.
Yeah, these are little teeny samples and bits of DNA that went up. Just one thought about this. I got a question from somebody the other day online, you know, talking about this failed Peregrine lander, and this was to be the first commercial lander on the moon. So it was inexpensive. It was a piece of repurposed hardware. I think the whole thing was $30 or $50 million, which in those terms is pretty cheap. Without the launch was provided. But as Leo will
I
remember,
always go wherever lunch is provided, by the way. That is, to me, the first thing I look for. Oh, launch.
In the 60s,
Oh, okay. Yes.
we had the Surveyor program, which sent, I think, 7 landers to the moon, 5 made it. So as far back as 1965, we were already landing robots to the moon, we being the U.S., the Soviet Union as well at some point. But, you know, we spent the equivalent of about $5 billion of 2024 dollars doing that because we were on this war footing and this competition with the Soviet Union. So the question is now, can you do it cheaper if you're a private company using some off-the-shelf hardware and with the assistance of NASA? So, yeah, we did it before. We did it 5 times. The surveyors were basically there to land and say, yes, it's safe to land on the moon, and here's what it's like down here. So send on your astronauts. And a couple of years later, we did. But
you have to remember, we
whole different thing.
Didn't know, for instance, if the lunar dust was so deep that you would just step out of the lander and sink away and never to be seen again. I mean, there was a lot of unknowns we had to figure out before we could do it.
A guy, I think he was from Caltech, Thomas Gold, who was absolutely convinced of 2 things. One, that the lunar lander would sink under 10 feet of dust and disappear, which nobody took very seriously except him, but it was a concern. And the other one was that lunar dust would combust the second it was exposed to oxygen inside the lunar module. And it didn't, but Buzz Aldrin did say it smelled like gunpowder. So there you go.
That's interesting. Huh.
Yeah.
All right, Mr.
So yeah, if you decide you want to go up, by the way, Leo, when your time comes, the starting price for having your ashes launched is $13,000.
Well, that's actually
That's
not bad.
not terrible.
So that's
I mean,
the
a good coffin will cost you that.
4 Apple headsets will cost you that. So, you know, this is a better deal,
Got
right?
a better view, that's for sure.
And you won't leave it on Leo's yard sale table at the end of the day.
That would be so sad if 5 years from now there's a
here's
Vision
Leo.
Pro on the conference room table.
Oh, I thought you meant if you
By
were
that
there.
time,
Yeah, that would be
you,
good.
your
me.
ashes? Oh, no.
Oh,
That's heartbreaking.
That's the final garage sale. That's the last one.
Closing time.
Made into cremains, you have to earn it. Get it? Sorry.
Rod Pyle.
I guess with that,
If you like jokes like that, you'll love This Week in Space, by the way.
And before I forget,
yes.
yeah, on January 24th or 29th, which one's a Friday? We have on February 23rd, we have Pam Melroy, who is the Deputy Director of NASA, the number 2.
Whoa.
Wow.
Coming on This Week in Space to talk about, among other things, the Artemis delays and what the plans are for that program. So that's a big honor for us, and I'm going to be very excited to have her there.
No
And
kidding.
She's a really great interview.
The second in charge at NASA is coming on your show.
Wow.
That's incredible.
That's good.
Yeah. It's
So
like
February
the big VP.
23rd, did you say?
Third.
February
Yeah.
23rd.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Wow, that's
This
exciting.
week in
Keep
space.
mentioning that
Yeah.
then.
Yeah, we got to keep
Please
plugging
do.
that one. That's a biggie.
Yeah.
Friday, February 23rd.
And
Mr.
someday we'll get Leo on there. You
Have
just
I
wait
not
and
been
see.
on your show?
You haven't, because you were going to be on once, but you had a Friday, I think a standing Friday conflict.
And
at
every
11
time
a.m.
he wants to come on, he wants to talk about how the moon landing was faked. So we really don't want him there.
I love talking about that. Are you kidding? When I get on Coast to Coast with our friend George Nuri, it comes up the second hour every time.
We'll get Adam Curry for you. He's on the horn. He thinks that there is a secret space base on the far side of the moon that our military
that the Nazis
set
set up in 1946. You bet. Because why not?
Well, this is what's great about conspiracy theories. They're hard to disprove.
Right.
Right.
Yes, they are.
Yeah.
And to become an expert, you don't even need a PhD. All
You don't need to
do
know
is look at
nothing.
Websites.
Nice.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rod Pyle. This Week
My
in
pleasure.
Space. And of course, go to space.is. What is the address? ISS.org?
For space.com?
International Space Society.
Oh, National Space Society. It's NSS.org.
NSS.org.
Yes.
I got it wrong completely. There it is.
Thank you, sir.
It's on the screen, space.nss.org. Subscribe to Ad Astra.
Thanks
Yes,
so
sir.
much.
Take
Thank
care.
you, Mr. Pyle. I won't play the
Bye-bye.
Space Force theme just because of you. Just because of you. What do you want to do now, Mr. Producer Man?
Ooh, a second. You almost said boy producer.
No, I didn't.
I
No, I didn't
hear
hear
it.
it. No, I didn't.
No.
No.
Nope.
Okay.
I didn't do it.
So, there's a couple of There's a couple of phone callers I actually want to pick up on. But here's the thing. I don't know who to pick up on. So I thought of a genius idea, and this is how my generation kind of does these things, how we can figure this out.
Let's go on TikTok.
No.
Oh.
See, we like to decide things on by chance.
Oh, you're going to spin the Saver Amazing Wheel.
In the wheel.
All right.
Spin
To
This is
determine.
Picker Wheel.
Yes. We're gonna.
I'm surprised these are still around. This was very popular amongst people in my generation. And the answer is LA.
5.
Number 5. Okay.
I only see 4.
That's great. What is that, picker wheel?
Oh, I see 5. I see.
Picker wheel.
Picker wheel.
Okay.
I'm going to pick up on number 5.
It's amazing what technology has brought us.
Oh, it's 4 now. Okay, well, 4. 4. You win.
Even in the death of Flash animation.
Yeah, there's still picker wheel. Hello, caller.
If you're
What
a
does he
caller, please press *6 to unmute yourself.
Okay, that was pickerwheel.com, by the way.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
Sponsored
Hi, good afternoon. This is Roy from Southern Indiana.
Hi,
Hello,
Roy from
Roy.
Southern Indiana.
Hey, I just feel like I won a huge prize. Thanks for spinning the wheel and picking me.
You did. You did. And you saw there was
Congratulations.
confetti and everything. This is exciting.
Long-time listener, and I've got a super quick question.
Sure.
I am looking for some video monitors for work. We'd like to be able to sit it out in our waiting area to show some of our different services, our menu, and things like that. Do you have any simple solutions for what we're trying to do?
A television would be your best bet. You could go for what TCL or Hisense are two good-looking but still inexpensive options. And depending on what you're trying to display to them, you could go the route of an Apple TV, which you would then like AirPlay the content to. I think many
There
of
is
those
an
TVs
app called Display Menu on the Apple TV in the Mac App Store. But I think having a Mac to do this
in the background would be better.
is kind of overkill. It might be better to have a Raspberry Pi or just an inexpensive compute. No, John's disagreeing. John, you have like 20 Raspberry Pis running in the background in your home.
A lot of extra work.
Okay.
I mean, if they have a skilled IT guy to do that,
Just to get it working.
Yeah, tell us what. So is this information available on a website, for example, and you're just trying to display that? Is this something that could be just created as a JPEG that you could just display on the TV?
Yeah, how much do you have to change?
Yeah, how much does it need to be
dynamic
changed?
does it need to be?
Yeah, so we have a lot of JPEG images. We provide personal care assistance primarily for aging adults.
Oh.
So we would like to have some of our different overviews of our service training, some information on some of the services that our care professionals offer, and just maybe some testimonials.
Oh, so like a
that we can
slideshow.
have cycling through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so in this case, you could use something like PowerPoint or
Keynote
on a Mac to display this stuff and just have it basically running.
You probably could get an old Mac Mini, an old Intel-based Mac Mini, almost as cheaply as you can get a Raspberry Pi these days, and then attach that to a screen. And you're right, a cheap TV would be fine. Anything with HDMI in would be fine. And so in effect, you're just having a running slideshow on there. The advantage of doing it that way is you could use Apple's Keynote. It's very easy to modify. It's very easy to create.
Yeah, as you get more testimonials, maybe you want to update it with new stuff. So the pharmacy that I go to, they've got a slideshow that plays that has, images of, oh, get your medicine in the mail instead of coming here and annoying us. And here's a nice testimonial. And, oh, this is the person you called to tell us that we've done such a great job. And it just kind of cycles through. And there's a little PC that's hooked up to it on the back.
Right.
And it's just a PowerPoint that's playing. So yeah, basically you would do the same thing here. You would have a little computer of some sort and you would just connect it via HDMI to this. And then basically, depending on how many of these you wanted, let's say you had 3 televisions, you could use what's called it's essentially a duplicator. So you would have the one PC
to split it to the various
to all
TVs.
3 of the televisions, and it would play through instead of having to have one for each one.
Yeah. So John, who worked at the Cal State LA, said show that to me. Show it to me so I can read it. He replaced a $20,000 very expensive custom LED display with just a big TV and a PowerPoint, and this was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
So really, honestly, you could do it. Any cheap computer could do it. A NUC, and one of those little small computers like that. Do you have a budget for this?
No, I mean, the budget that we had, honestly, was for some static display signs with neon, and I think I'm
let's
going
do
to come
better
in
than that. Yeah.
significantly under. So
Yeah.
I think we were quoted 10,000 for that.
Oh, yeah.
I just didn't know
this was
if
so
This you
much.
could do for 500
Yeah,
bucks
this would be
easily.
so much less expensive.
Easily. Okay. So it depends on how big a
I was
screen you
wondering,
want and
is
so
there any
forth.
way to? Is there any way to load it onto like a thumb drive so that way it could be kind of foolproof if I wanted to cascade this to the other offices?
Okay, so this is
Get
another
the
thing you could do.
television set
Yeah.
up?
In fact, one of our chatters in the Discord is mentioning this, and this is absolutely true. When you create a slideshow, either Keynote or PowerPoint, you can create an MP4 video. Now it's done. You can't modify it, but it will play, it will rotate, it'll show videos, it'll do whatever, all of the stuff that you did in the PowerPoint or the Keynote. Save it out. That you could put on a USB key, and many TVs these days
Can play an
can play it. You just plug it into the USB port, and it'll say, "Oh, I see a video there," and might have a menu interface. You press the button, and then that video is just going to keep playing until Windows crashes, which is probably every 4 or 5 minutes. No, this isn't running Windows. This is running the TV's operating system. So that's what I would. That's that's a great idea. So make a thumb drive, copy that again and again and again. You can bring it to every TV. If these, in fact, your displays in the offices may already have little USB slot or an SD card slot that they can play that. It's very common in TVs, maybe less so now, but it was very common in TVs a few years ago that they would have a little SD card slot that you could put an SD in and it would just play a slideshow.
Yeah, your photos, whatever you have there.
Yeah. So you may even have those TVs already. I would go around the offices and look.
Yeah, and if you need to check whether the television will play something back, you could go to a big box store. And if you end up needing to get new TVs, you could go to a big box store and try it out.
Cheap TV.
Yep.
USB slot. That way you just you go home, you make a perfect PowerPoint, you put it on the thumb drive as a video file, an MP4 file. That's easy. Yeah, that's probably the best way to do this.
Agreed.
Then you don't have to have a dedicated computer for it. The TV's just playing it on its own.
Wow. Thank you so very much. It's been such a pleasure. And thank you again for everything that you guys both do. And huge TWiT fan, so thank you very much.
Hey, it's great to talk to you. Thank you. And you know what? Thanks for the work you do. I know it's hard to work with elders, but they need that care desperately. I know this because I was just with my mom for a week. She's in a memory care unit because she has Alzheimer's. And you really see how hard the aides work, how committed they are to the older people. And it's important to the older people because they're confused. They don't know what's going on. And their families, too. We can't be there 100% of the time. So thank you. It's important work.
Thank you.
Take care. Wow, that went really well. Did you see that this spinner wheel has many more features than just a simple spinner wheel? Look at the tools here. You got a picker wheel, a team picker wheel, yes, no picker wheel, a number picker wheel, a letter picker wheel, country. What's the country picker? Oh, look, pick a country. Spin the countries.
I have made a terrible mistake.
This is if you do the UN, probably.
Yeah, date picker wheel, image
Model
picker
UN.
wheel. This is fantastic.
Ooh, an image picker wheel?
Well, yeah.
So one person could be a hot dog, the other person
let's
could be a
upload some
tangerine.
images we could see, and then you can basically that means you can spin anything. You spin it, and there it goes, round and round she goes. Where she stops, and it makes a lot of noise.
You have to play the noise. You have to.
That
it's not as
This
impactful.
is better than Wheel of Fortune.
Wheel.
Who's gonna win? Yellow, red, yellow, blue, blue, blue. Oh. Whoever did this is cracked. They do have ads on it. I'm undermining them by running an ad blocker, but there are ads on it. But still, this is fantastic. I'm looking for the person's name. You have all of the. How'd you find this? This is great, John. Or people your age all know about this, right?
Yeah. A lot of Twitch streamers use this tool because.
Oh, this is a Twitch streamer tool, of course.
Yeah.
Twitch laid off another bunch of people this week, and there was a story, I guess was it the New York Times, saying that insiders say Twitch never did it right. They never understood their creators, and they never had the technology they needed to succeed. YouTube's eating their lunch, I think.
Yeah, a little bit. Just to say.
Just a touch.
Yeah.
Well, are we on Twitch still? I think we are.
No, we're just on YouTube.
Just on YouTube? Okay, never mind. Forget about it.
Well, what we can't forget about, though.
Time to take a...
Well, no, it's not a break. It's our daily moment of zen.
Ready? Because YouTube TV does this. They have fish jumping in the streams, and then the bear eats it and stuff. But we're just going to go... I like that. It's very relaxing. We are watching Ask the Tech Guys, Micah Sargent and Leo Laporte, and taking calls. We didn't mention this at the beginning of the show. You just are so smart. If you're watching the video, you can read the screen. 888-724-2884 is our phone number. When we're live, you can get right on the air. But if we're not, you can leave a voicemail. We appreciate those. You can also email atg@twit.tv, video, voicemail. I saw somebody sent John a very long video, John.
Oh, a very long, wait, hold on. A very long video?
It down. Yes.
You mean this video right here?
Hi, Leo and Micah. I'm Jason, and I'm calling in from West Sussex in England. I'm a massive fan of the TWiT network and been listening to you for years, in fact, and a member of the club as well. So I have a fiber connection, which is directly connected to my house. It comes with a fairly standard ISP stroke wireless router. As I always do, I use my own network on top, and in this case it's a mesh router. I've got a fairly standard setup. So one mesh node is plugged in directly via Ethernet to the ISP router, and then by default what it does, it creates a network in what's called router mode, and that gives me a lot of functionality directly in the Tender app as well, so I can things like speed testing, and I get a sense of the bandwidth per device and so on. Mm-hmm. There's also another setting called the AP, or I think it's access point. When I'm in that mode, it works great still, but I lose some of those features on the mesh network. So my question is, what should I do, and what's in the best interest of the network? Does being in router mode limit the performance of the network? Are the clients that sort of sat underneath it on that network, are they having to work harder to resolve IP addresses, etc.? Love the show. Keep up the good work, and thanks again.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Mike D in the Discord says, British people sound so much smarter. He should be hosting the show, and then we could be just the dumb Americans saying, what should I do with my router? So they call it router, by the way, in the UK and Australia. They call it a router. We call it a router here in the United States, but it's the same thing. It's a device that distributes network connectivity to a variety of devices. In the earliest days, you need this because your internet service provider gives you one internet address, one IP address, and then you have more than one device on there. They can't all have the same address. But the internet doesn't work if devices aren't unique. So that's what the router or router does. It routes the traffic. It says, you, local PC 192.168.1.100, are having a conversation over our public address with a website. Every time that website sends information in, it goes to the router, which then routes it, right, to the PC that started the conversation. And it does this with all the different devices. So it's a really clever way of having multiple devices on a single IP address. But the router is a computer. It has to keep track of the conversations. It has to say, oh yeah, you were talking. Oh yeah, you're talking. Oh wait a minute, I got this for you. This is for you. So it is a fairly busy
like a switchboard.
Yeah, it's a switchboard. It's actually a better analogy. It's like a switchboard. The calls are coming in. It says, oh, this is for you, Micah, and it hands it off. So what you don't want is two routers on one system. And that's kind of what he has, because the ISP provided cable modems, fiber modem / router, that'll do all of that work, as will your mesh system. So the mesh system has a setting. I kind of like the word bridge mode, but they call it, what do they call it? Mesh mode? No. Anyway, they basically have a setting that says don't do any routing. Just be an antenna. Just be a radio, okay? And somebody else will do the routing. You don't have to think about that. You just have to sit there passively and be a transmitter receiver. You can also probably, in the ISP's router, there's probably a setting in there buried deep saying go into bridge mode. Don't do any routing. Just interpret the incoming fiber, send it through the Ethernet to my mesh device, which will do the routing. You can use either one, but don't use both.
Correct.
They call that double NAT. You don't want double NAT.
You don't want a double NAT.
So the question is, which should you use? And that's up to you. You can use either one. If it's easy for you to turn the ISP router into bridge mode. It sounds like you like the features of your mesh router.
Right.
So that's what I would do. I would say to the I would say to the ISP router, no, don't do any routing. Just be
the modem.
A modem. And then let the mesh router do all the work. You probably do that with your Eero.
That is what I used to do. Now I have my own modem that I install. But yeah, whenever I had the modem plus router that was given to me by the ISP, I turned off all the router functionality. It just served as the modem. My router was done with the Eero and everything else. Now that I have my own modem, it is just a modem, so it can only be a modem. And so the routing all happens from the Eero device.
So the other question he said is, well, does this affect my speed? And certainly double natting would. The router does slow things down because it's doing work, but it is a purpose-built computer. I mean, it's not the fastest processor in the world, but it just does one thing. It has a table. Who's talking to who? Okay, you. Okay. So it's able to do that pretty efficiently. Routers generally don't slow things down appreciably. Yes, technically there is a slowdown as it routes, but it's not
be millisecond. Yeah.
It may be though that one or the other of your routers, you have two, is faster than the other. So you can experiment. If you like the features of the mesh, keep the mesh. Unless if it's really slow and you get 90% of the features from the ISP's router, then use the ISP's router. They shouldn't be too much of a performance difference. If you have a good mesh router, that's going to have a better processor in it because it's doing more stuff than the ISPs. In general, I do what you do. I get rid of the ISP gear because you're often paying them rent for that, which ends up being more expensive. Buy my own gear and get good gear that's dumb.
Yes. Agreed.
Just a simple Motorola router. It's a little different with a fiber provider because that's a more complicated device.
Yeah.
So it may be that you have to use their Terminator box, their ONT. If that's the case, just use your mesh. Put that in bridge mode and use your mesh. Don't use both. That's the main thing. And you can actually do that, but there's some slowdown, and then there's also some duplication of effort, but there's also some confusion.
Confusion
sometimes.
is the big thing.
Yeah, because you're doing network address translation. That's what the NAT is on both devices, and you don't want to do that.
Good question.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
And a common, I think, thing.
And you can see all the edit points. Now, did you do the edit, John, or did he do the edit?
He did the edit.
He did the edit.
Yeah,
okay.
I asked him to edit it down just for our sake because it was a 3-minute plus question. As much as I love video questions,
we love our listeners.
Try to keep them under, actually 30 seconds is ideal. And I think if you think about it, you can almost always get it down shorter. You could easily have said, I have a fiber modem and I have a mesh router. I'm wondering which should do the routing? Is it going to slow me down?
Routing,
I like the features.
The
you can do it pretty quickly. So yeah, but we do like that. We really, I like seeing you in your attic suite.
It was lovely. He had a very nice setup.
Very nice setup up there. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes people live in their mom's basement. Sometimes they live in their mom's attic.
And sometimes
that's their own house. They just like it up there.
They just like it upstairs.
Chris Capicella, who was the former chief marketing officer at Microsoft, always used to call us from his attic. But I don't think it was his mother's.
Probably not.
No.
I would assume no.
Who else should we talk to?
I am going to pick up, I'm assuming it's not Daniel Howard, but I'm sure they'll tell us their name when I pick up on them.
Okay. And coming up, by the way, Chris Marquardt with our photo review. Very exciting. Clean.
And also, I forgot to mention, there's actually a question that was addressed to Chris that he's going to answer for us after.
Even better.
Wonderful.
It's not just two tech guys. We're all tech people.
All of us tech people.
Heart. It's probably true that anybody who's watching any of our shows at this point is
a tech person.
Pretty techie, right? Most people would not think to say, well, I have two routers. Which should I use? That's
right.
Not,
yeah, you're right. That's a very technical question.
Can you plug it in? Go ahead, caller.
Is this a phone call? Okay, *6 to unmute yourself. *6.
888-724. There we go. Hello, what's your first name? Where are you calling from?
My name's Dan. I'm calling from North Oregon coast.
Beautiful. Welcome, Dan.
Thank you. Quick question. I've had a media server on my PC for years with no problem. And I don't know if it was because of an update or whatever, but now I'm losing my media server on startup of my PC. I'll reset the network adapter and it will come back, then it will disappear again.
Oh,
and I can't figure out how to
Which media server are you using? What software?
I've tried different ones to see if it was the software. I'm using Mismo now.
Okay.
But I've used different servers, and it's consistent as far as.
So it's a network
media server.
It's a network issue, obviously,
Yes.
not a software issue.
Well, somehow it's almost like the permissions for the server disappear after I do the reset the network adapter, and I can't figure out how to on.
You're saying reset the network adapter. Are you talking about the one that's connected to the device itself? Or are you talking about resetting your router?
The PC.
Okay.
The Windows 11, reset the network adapter in Windows 11.
Mm-hmm.
And why you started doing that, just to see if you could get the media server working? Is that why you did that?
Yeah, that's trying to troubleshoot on YouTube and Google. That was one of the things that was recommended, and that worked, but then it will disappear.
So when you say disappear, you're on other machines and you're looking for your media server and you can't see it.
Exactly.
Okay.
I'll see it right after I reset the network adapter, and then a couple minutes later, I'll be able to play throughout the house. And then a couple minutes later, it'll disappear, and then I'll have to reset the adapter to get it on for a little bit.
Interesting.
But resetting the adapter works. Probably what you're doing when you're resetting the adapter is I wonder if does that restart the server, or is it reassigning IP addresses? One thing you want to make sure is that no other machine in your house has the same IP address. Remember we were talking about the routers? The reason the router works is because it assigns local IP addresses to every single device in your house. Typically 192.168. Usually 1 something. Sometimes 10. The Apple ones used to do 10. But usually it's 192. Make sure there's, by the way, a good network system will say, hey, there's another IP address here, but maybe it's not. Make sure you're not duplicating. What I would suggest, probably the best thing to do, is that machine that is your media server, give it a static IP address.
Okay.
Do you know how to do that?
I could figure it out.
It's in the network settings.
It just happened all this.
Go ahead.
Got it.
And by the way, this is usually when you get in trouble, is when you give it a static, because in theory the router is going to keep track of all that and not duplicate. That's one of the reasons double NAT can be problematic. It's also it could also be that a machine's not doing the right thing. So what I usually do in a case like this, it's not a bad idea. You kind of want a static IP address for a media server so that all the machines know where to go. Make it high enough so that it's out of reach of the, if you have 50 devices and your router's assigning 192.168.1.1 through 50, make it 60. Make it just out of the range. You don't want to make it too high because there may be a limit. It may not be able to go more than .255. Well, I know it can't go more than 255. So that might be one issue to look at. Just try a static IP address, an IP address that nobody else is using. And then
Windows
go ahead.
Would Windows Update have done something? Because it was working fine, and I haven't installed anything. It just
Windows. You only have one router, right? You don't have 2 routers,
right?
That's
worked for years.
Yeah, so it's all been very stable, and all of a sudden along comes a Windows Update. You're running Windows 11?
Yes.
I'm trying to think if there's anything in Windows Update that could have done that.
There was one thing that I'm seeing fly by here that could possibly be, it could, whenever you're resetting the network settings, then that is kind of restarting everything. Everything's logged and running. But we've talked before about power management being an issue for closing down some things. Could that be a factor here?
Could be, yeah. Sometimes network cards will go to sleep mode. So make sure you disable sleep on the network card. That'll be in the device driver interface. That has been a problem in the past. By the way, when you do give it a static address, do that in your router. Say, I want you to assign 1.200 to this machine always. And that way it will never change. The reason I come up with that is because resetting the network card is going to probably go through that whole process again and get a new IP address. Of course,
and when you reset the network adapter, you have to restart the machine too. So it's coming back on after the restart.
Okay, that may be telling then. It may not be the resetting the network adapter. It may be rebooting the machine. Have you tried just rebooting?
Yeah.
That doesn't
work.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm wondering what's going on here.
This is a tough one.
It does sound like it could be that the network, it's not a network card probably. It's on the motherboard, I imagine, yeah? The interface? Is it?
Yes.
It's not a dedicated network card. I wonder if it's failing in some way. I would, rebooting. So it's not rebooting. It's simply resetting the network card.
Exactly.
You know, that's redoing the whole DHCP thing, probably. How about if you reboot the router? Does that fix it?
That's a good question.
No.
It doesn't fix it.
I've tried that too.
Yeah.
I've tried going back to a restore point. I've tried reinstalling my server.
You know, I have to look at Windows Update most recent. It was the most recent patch Tuesday.
It might have happened after my restore, but I got a .NET update and a big one and another Microsoft
Despite
update.
its name, .NET has nothing to do with networking.
That's an interesting thought. That could the firewall on the machine.
Oh, is there a firewall? Maybe
Windows firewall. Could it be blocking other machines from seeing it? And so when the network thing first happens, the firewall hasn't yet sort of filtered it out. That's why you're seeing it elsewhere. And then the firewall kicks in.
Do you have any device? You know, the ideal way to run a Windows media server, of any media server, is to run it on a NAS or some machine that is kind of standalone that can be left on and so forth, because you have to keep that computer on all the time to keep the media server running.
Exactly.
So that might be another option, is to look for a media serving piece of hardware. NASs are very typically used for this.
Maybe I'll try my laptop then.
Yeah, just see if that works. If you had a network attached storage, if you go out and you get a Synology, you can get an inexpensive Synology. It has more storage for your media files, which is nice, and then it runs the media servers on your network for you, and you just leave it on. It's always on. I think that's a better way to go than a standalone computer.
Yeah.
That doesn't solve. We haven't fixed your problem, of course, but
I got to get my media server back because I got to find out on Battlestar Galactica if Starbuck died or not.
Oh,
I don't know.
Gosh, now I'm feeling sad. Make sure your driver's up to date. It could be that the Windows update updated the driver. So you did a restore. That's interesting. Restore can confuse things too. I'll be honest. I used to recommend System Restore all the time, and my experience with Windows System Restore is very checkered.
It felt bad. It felt bad to do it, but I was desperate.
Well, no, and in theory, that's the whole idea. I'm rolling back to a known good setup. Didn't fix it though. I would look and make sure you got the latest. So because the network card is on the motherboard, what you really want to do is go to the motherboard manufacturer or the computer manufacturer if it's a PC that was pre-built, and download the firmware, the latest drivers for the motherboard. And that may be also a fix. So who made the computer?
MSI is the motherboard.
Okay, yeah. So go to MSI. They'll have motherboard. It's not the BIOS update, but it's a motherboard. Sometimes they call it firmware, but it's the motherboard software. It's the drivers, and that's what's the interface to your network card, and that could also be messed up. So I would definitely check that.
Will do.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
There's some thoughts. There's some places you can go.
Places you
check
can
your network cable. You know, all of that stuff too. It's funny because we always end up kind of trying all these draconian solutions, and sometimes it's really just a bad cable.
It does end up being something.
It's so simple, right? It's just a bad cable. I feel your pain though. These kinds of things are really annoying.
It's frustrating. Really frustrating. It worked, and now it doesn't.
Yeah.
Why is that the case?
Yeah. Windows is the case. Windows. That's a statement that applies to Windows. It worked. Now it doesn't. Now it works differently. Microsoft just can't sit still, can they? Yeah. Oh, and here's it from Mike D in our Discord. He says he's suggesting running, and this is from the command line, ipconfig/all, just to see. You have to know what that means, what the output means, but it'll tell you if that card is running and if the server is running and all of that. So maybe that's something to look at. All right, we are going to talk to our photo guy in just a moment. You're watching Ask the Tech Guys.
Hold on. Before, we need to figure out, we need to take a moment of Zen. A moment of Zen.
Shall we do a moment of Zen?
Or there's some other options. We new toy for Lily.
Oh.
Or I get an Apple Vision Pro.
Spin the spinning wheel.
The most expensive. Little do we know,
Wouldn't
he's
it be
actually
funny?
loaded it.
Can you load it? Can you pre-select? Because I swear I will abide by whatever this comes up.
Moment of Zen.
Thank God. That was your moment of Zen. All right, now we go to our favorite photographer, Chris Marquardt, for his famous monthly segment, our review. The assignment this week was clean. Hello, Mr. Marquardt. Moin, moin. Moin, moin.
Hey, moin, moin. Good to be back.
It's great to see you. Welcome.
We will have, I promise we will have a moment of Zen in this photo segment.
Oh, I like it.
I predict that.
So each month, Chris joins us and gives us a word, a subject, a topic to go. The whole idea, it's not really a competition. It's to get you to go out and take a picture, to get some photos. And you know what I've really realized, Chris, of late, and partly it's because Apple added this journal app to the iPhone, is that really I record my life in pictures. If my camera is always with me in my iPhone, and I kind of remind myself when I'm talking to my mom, take a picture. I actually shot quite a bit of video with her.
Nice.
When I'm out with my sister and my nephew for a meal, take a picture. Not of the food. The food can be in it. It's incidental, but of us. And that ends up going in my journal because it really is. And it really came home to me when Mom and I sat down. I went and I got all of her photo albums, and we started going through them. And it was fun for me, and it was great for her. She's got early stages of Alzheimer's, so she's got some memory issues, but she remembers every detail. She said, "Oh yeah, there's my friend. We were doing that." And so I realized that is the record of our lives that we're keeping now. That is really valuable.
A picture says more than 1,000 words. That's not an empty phrase.
No,
there's so much information packed into each single photo. Yeah.
So this assignment gives you a chance to go out, take pictures around this topic. We ask you to upload them to our Flickr group. Boy, it's a popular group. We've been doing this for almost 20 years now, right?
14,000 people in the group.
Wow, it's just great, and I hope you're
wild. Yeah.
I hope you're a member and join. If you aren't yet, Flickr is free. Join it, and then you can participate in these assignments. So, Chris, did you get some good photo submissions?
Yes, we did. We got just 15, but then it was the busy Christmas time and so on. So
true.
Plus, it's hard to find something clean in this world.
very true. But some really good ones among them. Let me start this off with the first one I selected, which is by Demi Lente, often here on the show, with great photos. It's a hotel bathroom mirror light and a soap bar on the sink.
Wow, so pretty simple.
Here's your clean photo. It's one of those, if you know how to see light, and this is a very diffuse light, you see no hard shadows, it makes it a very, very pleasing picture to look at. Then it's tone in tone because of the color of the light and the soap bar, and it's a macro, which means you're really close, so it's partially out of focus, partially in focus. Hits the spot.
Shot with a Canon 5D Mark IV, so a very, very fancy camera. But you could have done this with an iPhone.
Doesn't need to be a fancy camera.
Yeah.
You can take a picture like this with your smartphone, switch to the telephoto camera in your smartphone, and you will get something very
By the way, it's making me hungry, even though I know it's soap. There's something about it.
It's kind of cheesy.
It looks delicious for some reason.
It does.
Okay, are you ready? Here comes your moment of Zen. The next photo by user 20 March 1989, and it's titled Pure Clean Sound. It's a bronze meditation chimes. And
I can hear it.
Another macro
It's such
shot.
a good picture. I can almost hear it. Can't you?
Yep.
Well. look what I found here from one of my photo tours from Tibet. It's a meditation chime, and the reason I chose this photo is because the sound of these things is so clean. Listen to this. I hope it transfers to the compression here, but listen to this.
Wow.
Oh, I love that.
It's one of these almost like angelic sounds. Very, very pure.
I love that. I have at home a meditation bowl that I can strike when I want to start meditating, and it's just the whole idea is to kind of trigger that. And when you hear it, and they really sustain for a long, long time. It's a beautiful.
And
sound.
this also shows you that if you know the recipient of a photo, you can make a better photo that chimes with them, literally chimes with them, because a photo always docks with the experiences of the recipient. So this was one of these cases.
Beautiful shot, love it, and I love the macro shots.
Me too.
Yeah.
Wow.
And then, last but not least, a shot by Ron Hikes 816 Insectarium.
Very different. This is very different.
It's in a museum of sorts, and it's a whole bunch of really nice, colorful beetles on a display, and they're arranged in a pattern. I think we call this knolling. Very like laid out in a almost regular pattern. Very clean, very shiny bugs. So. Very like it's pleasing to look at.
It's outstanding.
Nice mix of colors.
Wow.
Knolling, I wonder, it's an Instagram trend of taking stuff and laying it out.
Oh, really?
Laying out objects at right angles. But I wonder if it's...
Look it up, Knolling.
Yeah, well, I wonder if it's named for Thomas Knoll, who was one of the creators of Photoshop, who also had
I think it goes...
a little OCD.
It goes back to a catalog of I think it was a furniture manufacturer or someone who laid out the catalogs like that.
It was a janitor at Frank Geary's furniture fabrication shop.
Wow.
There we go.
Andrew Cromelo, he used to arrange his displaced tools at right angles on all surfaces, called it knolling, similar to knoll furniture. Wow. Wow. It's got a kind of OCD feel to it. But I love this.
It's very satisfying to look at.
Yeah. I love this picture of beetles perfectly laid out, organized neatly. These are other things knolled so that they kind of all fit together like a puzzle. Wow, that's wild. I love that. So thank you for the knolled beetle shells.
Yeah, that's too cool.
Well, thanks to everyone who participated.
Yay.
Great stuff here. Great stuff.
Wow. Yeah. Well, you know, this means it's time to go to the fishbowl.
The fishbowl.
Time to go to the fishbowl and to the fishbowl of adjectives and pull one out. Oops. I like this one. It is sparkling.
Sparkling. Or you could reuse those beetles, actually, but don't. The whole idea is you got to take new pictures. Many things sparkle. You could even have somebody's smile as a sparkling smile. But we aren't going to tell you what's sparkling. You find something that sparkles. Take an image. You can upload as many as one a week. We're going to give you 4 weeks to do this. When you find something you like, tag it, TG Sparkling, for Tech Guys Sparkling, and upload it to Flickr.com. That's where you can tag it. And once you've done that, submit it to the group. Renee Silverman, the moderator in the Tech Guy group, will accept your photo. We'll say, thank you. Wonderful job. And we'll add it to the pool. And then Chris will, next month, find something wonderful to say about it. Because Chris is always a nice guy. Some beautiful stuff. We had some fun pictures in here. That's, by the way, I encourage you during the month to go to the Tech Guy group on Flickr and look at the images people are uploading. Comment. One of the things that's great about Flickr is you can talk about other people's photos and give them constructive comments. Often I just say, wow, I really like that one. That's beautiful. So many nice images up there. Chris, what's going on with you? I have all of Chris's books. He did a wonderful book on wide-angle photography, film photography. He has, and I think, do you still offer this for free to people who sign up for your newsletter? A really great video series on how to organize your photos using Lightroom. But it would work with anything about how to go through your photos, 1,000 photos in an hour.
The thing you want to look for is 1hour1000pics.com, which is a website which lets you download for free by now an ebook that helps you plow through a whole lot of pictures in a short time.
It's a wonderful methodology.
Yeah, it works. It works with all sorts of software. It's built on Lightroom, but you can transfer this to almost anything else.
And I know that we have a question for you.
Oh,
it was addressed to you specifically.
Let's do it.
I'd be happy to. So, let me.
John, do you have it, or does Chris have it?
Yeah, how are we pulling that up?
I sent it to you, Chris, but it was a recent email. Sorry.
So you can read it. Do you have it there for you?
I can read it. So yeah. It is actually a question by Demi Lente, who every now and then gets an entry here in the.
Which one was hers?
Thing. Well, Demi Lente turns out is not a her. It's a team. It's a couple. So
nice.
We can refer to them as.
Were they the soap couple?
They were the soap couple.
Yes, they were. And they have an issue with a photo that is. I'm just trying to bring it up here on the screen.
I can have it on my side.
We got it. We can show it. There.
All right. So they have taken a photo with Pixel 8, and they edit their photos in Darktable, which is like Lightroom but open source.
Love Darktable. Yeah. And this looks like a heart, from right? There, it's a heart.
It's a heart made from, looks like drops of sort, glass beads of sorts. And after exporting this, if you scroll down, there is an attachment. To
what
in
the world?
The picture in the Lightroom app, in the preview there, it looks green. And I was trying to find out what that is. I have an educated guess, and it probably has to do with color management.
So these were were the original items red?
Yes, they were. Yes, they were.
And they're now
turned into
in Lightroom. So they're probably shooting. I noticed they shoot with a Canon 5D, right? Oh no, this was Pixel 8.
Yeah.
Well then I don't know.
This was a Pixel 8.
Because if you shot raw. Well, look at that.
My guess is it has to do with color spaces. And just to give you the quick, like, half-minute idea about what that is, a picture is just a bunch of numbers if you look into the file. So you need a color profile to let the computer know how to interpret this number. Is this red? Is this green? Is this blue? It's a bit like if you speed and the officer says you were going 50. It could be miles per hour or kilometers per hour, right? You need the reference, and the color space is the reference. And on export from Darktable, I believe it is possible to assign a color space, and I feel that possibly that hasn't been assigned. Best bet is, if you don't know what color space to assign, use sRGB. Look for these letters. sRGB is kind of the least common denominator that works almost everywhere. And I have the suspicion that there was no color space assigned on export, and then the app, the Flickr app, has to guess: is it kilometers? Is it miles? Is it centimeters? Is it inches? And that probably confused it. That's just my quick guess here.
I'm looking at my Pixel 8 in the camera app to see if you can tell it what color space to use. sRGB is the kind of lingua franca, but sometimes people, especially using Adobe Lightroom, will use Adobe's color space. And, you're taking a picture.
I don't think the Pixel 8 color space matters here, because they imported that into Darktable on their Mac, and Darktable it gets mangled in some other colorway, and then it gets exported from there, and then the Flickr app seems to have an issue. So I would look in Darktable and see if it's possible to explicitly tell it what color space to use.
Does
that would be my
JPEG
first guess?
So if they took it with the camera phone, which probably saved it as a JPEG, does JPEG like is it part of the data?
Yes.
The EXIF, the color space, right?
The color space is a JPEG can have multiple different color spaces, so it's marked in the metadata.
It is
the
part
JPEG,
of the metadata.
What color space this image is in? Yeah.
So that's another thing you could do is look at the metadata of the photo, a variety of ways to do that, and see what color space is indicated.
Yeah. I would check that.
That's a really interesting question. Yeah. So it could also be it got corrupted at some point. It's funny because when you look at the floor is also green. So there's a green cast to everything. It's almost, to me, it looks as if the red channel was turned off.
It's completely recolored.
Yeah. Very interesting. It's a pretty thick photo. Thank you, Demi Lente. Isn't that a cute thing to do as a couple?
I think
I love that. Lisa and I have to make up
in the mail why it is Demi Lente. It's Spanish for from my lens. Demi Lente.
Demi Lente.
There you go.
Wow. What a fun thing to do as a couple. Actually, we kind of do, but I can't. I've tried to convince Lisa this. To let me take the pictures and she could do the retouching. She's so good at the post-processing, and I hate it.
I also hate the post-processing.
But she won't do it. She said, "No, I'm not. You've processed."
She loves pressing that shutter button.
She likes to take the pictures too. We love taking pictures. It's so much fun. We'll go out and take pictures of sparkling things, and we will look for your photos on our Flickr group. And in a month, Chris will come back. Any big projects coming up? Any workshops you got planned? Do you want to plug, Chris?
Well, I'm looking to go back to the East European side on a photo road trip as I did last year. Details about that are coming up, and I've just started working on a new book, so that is my big project right now. Very good. What's the book going to be? Can you tell us? Not yet. His books are great. I highly recommend all his books. DiscoverTheTopFloor.com is the place to find out what Chris is up to. And, of course, you can follow him on Flickr as well because he's a great photographer. Thank you, Chris Marquardt. Thank you. See you next month. See you next month. DiscoverTheTopFloor.com. Bye-bye. All right, let's do another call. Or should I do an email? Or should I do a voicemail? So many choices.
Do you want to do voicemail?
Sure.
Voicemail, 888-724-2884. If you call us during the week, basically when we're not doing the show, that is how you leave a voicemail for us.
Hi, this is Jim.
Jim.
Hello,
hi, Jim.
Mac.
Oh, hi, Mac.
It's Jim Mac.
Hi, this is Jim.
Hi, Jim.
From Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Oh, home of Dollywood.
Android.
Okay.
It is Android 12.
Yeah.
I have an S10 Plus.
Nice.
And I recently switched from Straight Talk, Verizon,
which is a Walmart
to
company.
the new Vision Verizon.
Visible.
And I can no longer use any of the third-party texting apps. I was a big fan of Textra, but now the only one that works for me is the Samsung texting app, which I don't particularly care for.
Yeah.
I've been with tech support through Vision, and I've been on tried to read everything I can. I cannot figure out why it does not want to work with Vision, and apparently they don't understand it either. But I thought maybe you guys might know.
So
thank you so much for the great work. I love listening.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Say hi to Dolly. Textra is an SMS app. I used it for a long time. There are a lot of this is the problem. We are entering a new era. SMS was the old school way of sending text messages. It used actually the voice channel. It didn't use data. It used the voice channel to communicate. It's still the fallback for Apple's messages, for Android's messages, because it's the lowest common denominator. But increasingly, SMS is going away. Phone companies don't want to support SMS. It's a separate server. What they want you to do is use data for messaging. Data is what WhatsApp uses, what Facebook Messenger uses, and for the most part, what Apple's messages use and what Google and Samsung's messages use. They want to do this over data. They don't want to do it on SMS. The only reason they have SMS capability is to fall back in case your recipient, this is why you got blue bubbles and green bubbles, your recipient doesn't support these data form of messaging, they'll fall back to SMS. SMS has lots of problems. It's insecure. It can't display images. For that, you have to use MMS and on and on and on. So Textra was a replacement SMS app in the early days of Android. The problem is Visible, I'm guessing, I don't know, I should check the Visible website, is a data, it's Verizon's low-cost entry, and the reason it's low cost, one of the reasons is it's data only.
Got it.
Phone calls are data. Texting is data. I bet you there is no SMS support. That's why it won't work. And surprising that Visible's reps don't know this. But really what you have to do is use a messaging app that uses data, which is most of the messaging apps. You could use Samsung's, you can use Google's, you can use Signal, you can use Facebook Messenger, you can use WhatsApp. All of those can be used as your messaging app on your Android device. And all of them have SMS, but the problem is, you know, you can't use SMS on Visible. I'm pretty sure this is the case. So it's just, and so a program like Textra, which is an SMS program, won't work at all because it's not using data at all. You need to only use messengers that use data. This is, you know, this is kind of the future.
Yeah, that's
frankly.
wild. Huh.
SMS works on Visible. They must have an SMS backhaul. So somebody has said that instead you could use a program called QK SMS. QK SMS. I don't know if that's better or not. I honestly think that Visible is Verizon's attempt to get rid of all these legacy technologies. So somebody's saying that he's using SMS. They may have a way of making that work. But I remember when Verizon announced Visible, you know, they have unlimited data, right? Mm-hmm. They want you to use Visible because it's just data. It's just data. It's let me see if under their help if they talk about SMS at all. The problem with these companies is they're not going to say, probably. Yeah, nothing. Nothing. Their search doesn't even enter. It doesn't even work. You can't search.
That sounds about right. That is how these companies are. Oh my goodness, the support on them is always
I remember when Verizon, the only reason I'm thinking this is I remember when Verizon announced it, and the reason they have unlimited data and the reason they did this is they wanted, it's going to be a little bit less capable, but they wanted to go move to the future technologies, all data all the time, even for voice calls, right? And you know what? It is better. An improvement. It is an improvement. It's the future. If you have 5G, there's no reason for you to use these these old backhaul technologies. Yeah, I can't find it here. Somebody's saying he is.
Yeah, but it was also on an iPhone, and we don't know about the difference between the two in terms of how
and
it's
remember,
being
this
sent.
is not Verizon. This is Visible.
Yeah.
This is Verizon's data-only system.
So Joe says specifically that Joe uses Visible, but uses Visible with an iPhone and did not have trouble sending messages.
No, because it's mostly messages.
Yeah. Yeah, so
it's not going to be a problem going forward unless you have other friends with really old phones. Eventually, SMS is history. Google is replacing it, and it took a while. The carriers took a while, but the Google is starting to replace this with RCS. You'll hear a lot about RCS, Rich Communication Services, and that is a replacement for SMS that is both secure, encrypted. All of these database ones are much, much better than SMS. SMS is a nightmare. It's insecure. It's terrible.
Yeah, and it wasn't. I think it wasn't intended to last as long as it did, frankly.
Yeah. Well, okay.
I don't know. This is the thing, though. I actually, when I set up with one of these kind of carriers, I had to wait a couple of weeks actually for it to start working. There was a bunch of stuff in the background that they didn't do properly, I guess. And it's hard to get in touch with anyone because you are paying so little, and so they cut costs on support. And so you're left trying to type into a search field that doesn't even let you go into. So it could be a number of things at fault here.
Yeah, I'm just going through the Visible support. You might call. Well, he said he called Visible and they couldn't help him.
Yeah, you could try resetting the network settings.
Ah, here we go. Email to text message with Visible? No, I don't know that. That's not it. Well, that's, I'm just guessing. That seems to be the issue, in my opinion. That seems to be the issue. Here's solved.
If
messaging and Visible text messaging. Yeah, but this is something else.
If any of our listeners use Visible on an Android device, write us. Let us know how you got it working, if you got it working. Otherwise, we have to proceed with the information we have.
Yeah.
If we had an endless budget, we could sign up for Visible and try to do it ourselves.
I used to do that. That's why I have so many phone carriers. I used to sign up for everything. I'm seeing other people having similar service. I'm also seeing people complaining about customer service if it's a complex issue.
This is the new thing. I just heard about how more so than ever these companies are relying on people who are part of the quote unquote community to do tech support for free. Yeah, and in fact, somebody was trying to get help with the Sony PlayStation network, and 3 of the people they talked to were just other players who had agreed to be support people.
They do. Come to think of it, they do want text messaging must work because so many banks use SMS for their.
That's true.
And this is why we have a real problem with it. They use SMS for their two-factor. So this would be potentially an issue. I'm going to guess what's going on is that Visible has a SMS gateway into data. That's how they're handling this. And it may be up and down. I'm seeing that the support people are saying, restart your phone, switch in and out of airplane mode, blah, 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 blah. It sounds like this may be a problem that comes and goes with Visible, which means they might be having trouble with their gateway. I'll give you this link to the Visible community support page. It doesn't seem like it's too helpful. Other people, even on iPhones, are having trouble sending SMS messages. So I'm going to guess they have a gateway that allows them to do SMS. The whole idea of Visible was, let's not do, yeah, you got it. Let's not do these old technologies like 3G and SMS. Let's move to the future, which is LTE and 5G.
Yeah, all data. All data, all the time.
I think we have time for... Should I do an email?
Let's do an email. Yeah.
I think we have time for an email. I really want to try to keep up with these. There's so many of them. Oh, it's hard to. ATG@twit.tv. Jeff asks about satellite internet. Do you think SpaceX internet is the future for cell phones? Now, Amazon's getting into the business satellite internet. What's your opinion? You know, this comes up because T-Mobile has announced that they are going to, in some cases, use SpaceX for connectivity. Now, they're doing it as a trial right now. Possible. SpaceX is extremely expensive for home internet. It's more than $100 a month, and you have to buy a bunch of equipment. Obviously, if your carrier is doing it, you don't have to buy any equipment. But I'm wondering, maybe there's excess capacity, and the carriers are able to make deals with Starlink. I don't know if there's anything wrong with Starlink in the way to using it that way.
Right.
If you didn't have the expense, I think Starlink would be a good solution.
Yeah, we know that Apple has a deal with satellite infrastructure.
That's for emergencies.
Yes. And so basically what the point I'm getting at here is that these systems are for emergencies. They're not as high powered. They don't send as much data. And eventually...
That's not what this is.
Correct. I know. But here's the point that I'm trying to get to. So with that... Apple has eaten the cost up front, but eventually we know that Apple's going to start charging for that. And so if something that's not as high powered as this is going to end up costing us in the end, I feel like this could end up being something where, you know, it gets added to the bill. So I almost don't want this to be the case, except in an edge case where you needed to.
Here's T-Mobile's video. They point out that millions of acres in the U.S. are outside of cell coverage, 20%.
Oh, wow.
So what T-Mobile wants to do is use SpaceX Starlink to provide connectivity in those areas. I love this idea because I would love to be able to use, you know, my cell phone on a boat and in a wilderness and so forth. This is currently in trial, so watch. We'll watch with interest.
We will.
Potentially, will it work? Yes, absolutely. It's a great idea, but it's you know, they're as always. You know, you'll just have to see. You know, T-Mobile has just started doing this, so we'll watch with interest. I don't think there's any reason not to.
Right. If it's there and
the biggest issue is, and I'm curious how they're solving this. You've got to have a satellite receiver in your phone. And as you know, with the satellite emergency coverage on the iPhone, you have to hold it here, and you have to wait
clear
until
line,
it slows,
and
do all sorts of things. So, I mean, I guess we are building satellite receivers into phones. The SpaceX, the Starlink receiver right now is this big, but they say we can shrink it. We're shrinking it. So a lot of technical advances have to happen before this becomes an improvement. And even then, T-Mobile isn't using this where they have cell towers, only where they don't have cell towers. Okay, Starlink direct to cell is the idea. And you know, you'll see more and more people using it. We'll get more reviews. You can go to direct.starlink.com. Thank you, Scooter X, for that link to find out what Starlink is telling the phone companies.
Yeah, I was going to say, this is what's... given the proprietor of this company,
I don't believe anything.
You got to take it with a grain of salt.
Texting starts in 2024. Voice and data starts in 2025. And IoT, see, that's interesting, too, for IoT.
Yeah.
In 2025. It's a way for Starlink to make a little more money.
Are the Chiefs playing today?
Shh.
I just saw Patrick Mahomes, or whatever his name is.
Yes, they are. There's this thing called sport ball. We are going to... Oh, you're from that area.
Yeah, I was just... Are they playing against
Kansas,
your people?
Aren't you? They're not playing against my people, no. They will be playing against the Buffalo people.
Oh.
But...
the Buffalo Chips.
But our people, the San Francisco... Vaders did in fact win last night in a very difficult game. They almost lost to the Green Bay Packers, and you know our house is a split home.
No, it was the Packers versus
you know our
the
house
49ers.
is split home. What's sad for the Packers, and Michael, our son, who's a major Packers fan, is that we keep beating the Packers in the playoffs. This is the fourth time in a row.
Oh, no.
And I've been sitting next to him for most of those games. I did not get to sit next to him for this one. So we will watch with interest. But we will be, you know, playing the NFC playoffs against probably one of the winners of a game today. I was going to say probably who, but we'll just have to wait and see. The game is going on right now. And yes, your boy Patrick will be playing. Do you get into it?
Just for my mom's sake.
Your mom's a Chiefs fan?
Huge.
Oh, yeah.
So
Chiefs are having a hard time, I think.
That's what I heard.
This year. Patrick is one of the great quarterbacks, a franchise player, but he's been having a rough time last few games. Hey, we are out of time. Speaking of time, did we do all our ads and everything?
Yep.
We had enough moments of zen?
Yep. And now...
Is it time to spin the dial
to determine if we will...
and see what happens next?
What could happen? What if it lands on the line? What happens then?
It's time to end the show. Thank you for joining us on Ask the Tech Guys. We do it every Sunday. We're out about 11 a.m. Pacific, 11 technically Pacific. But that would be about, 2 p.m. Eastern time till about 4:30 Eastern time. You can watch us do it live because we turn on the live stream on YouTube, youtube.com/twit. When the show begins, we'll turn it off as soon as the show is over. TWiT is coming up, so we'll turn it back on again in a few minutes. You can also watch the show at your leisure, and that's really the main point of the show. We have versions available at the website, twit.tv/ATG, or go to techguylabs.com. We continue to pay for that fine name. You also can get a copy of it in your favorite podcast player. Not too late to take the survey. I do want to encourage people to do that. We want to make sure that every show gets well represented in our annual survey. twit.tv/survey24. We've shortened it. Just take you a few minutes, but it's the best way we have of getting to know you. We have no other way of knowing anything about you. So if you could take the survey, that'll help us know what you like, what you want, make better shows for you. And of course, it also helps us sell advertising because they want to know, well, who's watching? We really don't know. What else? Do join the club. And boy, we thank all of our highly discerning Club Twit members.
Yeah.
The best of us.
We keep seeing people joining, and we'd love to have you be part of that movement.
Yep. It is a movement, isn't it? Thank you all. Micah Sargent will be back with Tech News Weekly. If you're in the club, of course, he and Rosemary do iOS Today, and next Sunday, right here.
Right here.
As you ask the tech guys. I'm Leo Laporte.
I'm Micah Sargent.
Go out and have yourself a great geek week.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hey there, Scott Wilkinson here. In case you hadn't heard, Home Theater Geeks is back. Each week, I bring you the latest audio-video news, tips and tricks to get the most out of your AV system, product reviews, and more. You can enjoy Home Theater Geeks only if you're a member of Club TWiT, which costs $7 a month, or you can subscribe to Home Theater Geeks by itself for only $2.99 a month. I hope you'll join me for a weekly dose of home theater geekitude.